In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice and fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics, and we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet, and we ain't gonna be scared, and we ain't gonna go along with the crowd. This is Blood Politics.
What's up, guys? Get comfortable. Hit that like button while you're getting comfy. I'll be right with you.
It's about us versus them. This is Blood Politics. And we gonna do what we gotta do.
Say, how do you do? How do you do?
Because ain't nobody else.
Hop right into it. We're gonna hop right into it as we always do. No time to waste. No time to waste. We got a killer show for you guys today, as we always do. We'll be diving through all the nonsense, all the recent news, what denials are coming out, what proposals went out, what people on the Iranian side are saying, the whole 9 yards. But welcome in one and all. Get comfy. Smoke them if you got them. Cheers if you're drinking any adult beverages. I appreciate you guys for joining me once again. What do you say we bring in the old chat? Because you guys deserve a little airtime, a little screen time. Because you guys are the reason that we keep this thing going, right? You guys are the reason, and I want to make sure that you guys get all the credit that you deserve. Like people like Kyle Smith in there, people like Jeff in the chat, people like Vicky. What's going on? Especially the mods that we have, the fucking fantastic mods. Can't thank you guys enough for all that you do. And then what's up to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Substack? Am I forgetting anybody? I don't think so. Shout out to everybody. Appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 20K. It's with your help that we're going to get there. So thank you. What's up, Greg? What's up, No Money G? Halle Berry in the chat. That's not something you see every day. It's not something you see every day. That was one of my dreams growing up as a kid, to have Halle Berry in my chat. So dream fulfilled. Check that box. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. That's awesome. What's going on, Flipper? What's up? Namaste. How are you guys? All right, so it's May 7th, 2026. I appreciate you guys for making it this far, as you typically do, trying to fight through the nonsense. What are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be kind of all over the place today, as we typically are, to try to cover as many talking points, as many pieces of the news as we possibly can in the 2-hour time frame that we have. It is now being reported that Iran has rejected Trump's 14-point proposal. So we'll be looking at a couple of the statements, a couple of pieces of the news that are reporting that so far. Obviously, the national gas average is on the rise once again, day after day after day. We continuously see that creeping up. I feel really bad for the people out in the western states, and obviously any state that's paying the higher range of the gas prices right now. We're going to be talking about Israel launching more strikes inside of Gaza and Lebanon. We have more info coming out on why Project Freedom was canceled in 24 hours, and it wasn't because of the peace talks. It wasn't because of the potential negotiations that, again, Barack Ravid was wrong. Barack Ravid from Axios was wrong again. Mr. fucking peace talks, Mr. negotiations are just around the corner. That guy. So we'll be talking about all that. We got the new Lego drops, plus an oldie and a goodie. Like, I wanted to bring us back a little bit to one of the better of the Lego videos that have come out, but we also have a new one. We got the iHip ladies talking shit about Cash Patel, so that should be fun. We got a video here asking, will Putin be dead before the end of the war in Ukraine? So that's something that we really got to dig into. Russia is making a little push towards Zaporizhzhia. So as we typically do, trying to keep everybody grounded in reality, we talk about the successes. We talk about the ground successes, and obviously the air attack successes that Ukraine's had. But we got to stay grounded in reality and take a look at all of the pieces, the parts of the front, and kind of stay on top of whatever's going on. We also have recently a new CIA report has been leaked to the Washington Post, and this is detailing Iran's ability to continue this war. Not only that, but their drone and missile capabilities that they still have intact, which is something that we've been consistently reporting here on Blunt Politics, which again flies in the face of everything that Pete Hegseth, the Pentagon, and Donald Trump has been telling you since day one. We'll be be taking a look at people and some accounts like Clash Report, MB Galabaf, and then we have a video here in which we're just taking a direct look at some of our allies, some people that are looking from the outside of this government, the outside of this country, looking in at the stupidity of the United States regime and Donald Trump in particular, and the people that are supporting him. And again, don't tell him what an idiot he is. So hit that like button. I really do appreciate every single one of you guys in the chat. I appreciate everybody donating. There is a Venmo up in the corner here. All you got to do is take a 2-second, little period, put your camera on that, send you right to the Venmo. $1 or $2 is all we ask for. Anything above and beyond that's completely up to you, depending on your financial capabilities. There's patreon.com/Boston Brian. YouTube memberships just underneath me for well less than a gallon of gas right now. And check out the merch shop. And I think that's about it. BostonBrian.com gives you all the updates, information on when we're live, show dates, show schedules, Zoom schedules for anybody signed up at the Patreon. And then, you can check out the Blunt Politics merch shop as well. Get some fantastic merch that people have been really enjoying, which is good to see. So appreciate you guys. What do you say we dive into a little bit of the nonsense, a little bit of the craziness? Shout out to the mods once again for everything that you guys do. We're going to start off here again with the ridiculous climb that we've been seeing consistently here in the national average of gas prices. I mean, even from yesterday, we're talking about another somewhat 2-cent rise, depending on where you live and, what the price is at your nearest gas station. But, here we're looking at today's national average at $4.55, damn near going on $4.56 already. And again, that is up from yesterday. I believe yesterday's average was $4.53, right? So we're already at 2 cents, already up 2 cents beyond yesterday, going on 3 cents just in a single day. Right, so the current average $4.55. Yesterday was $4.53. A week ago was $4.30. Just to give you an idea of how fast these prices are going up. A month ago was $4.14. A year ago was $3.15. Just to give you some idea, perspective on kind of where we're going and how that's looking. Let me know, as you guys typically do in the chat, what you guys are paying, where you're living. Let me know, obviously, the price per gallon and where you guys live in. Doesn't have to be too exact or specific, depending on where you're from. But the state, the region, that would be great. That way everybody can kind of get up to speed and familiar on what everybody else is paying. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing to say the national average, but, as it says here, the national average in Massachusetts is $4.46. I know, from experience, just the gas station across the street is less than that. So, let me know in the chat what you guys are paying, because I'm sure a lot of people are paying more than what the state average says. Looking at California here, up to $6.16, going on $6.17 a gallon. Nevada, $5.23. Oregon, $5.34. Washington, $5.76. Alaska, $5.21. We took a look at Illinois at just going on $5 now, $4.78. Ohio, Michigan, $4.78. So again, you can see here, people all over the country feeling this price. What was Hawaii? $5.66 in Hawaii. So, just keeping tabs on how fast that's going. Again, even if we, even as, again, Barack Ravid and these other people try to, again, manipulate the market and try to quell the pressure going on by, again, and consistently trying to report on, peace talks and agreements that are had that are likely right around the corner. Well, unfortunately, we have a few pieces of reporting now to suggest that the Iranians have now rejected the U.S. demands. Again, take this with a grain of salt, because as you'll see here, I believe it's coming up in the Clash report that I guess some other portions, some other pieces of the Iranian leadership are coming out and saying that they haven't given an answer yet. So again, take everything you hear now with a grain of salt, and we'll try to kind of confirm or corroborate all of the things that are being said. But this is posted by Adam Cochran. He says, "Oh, surprise, Barack Ravid's Trumpian propaganda was untrue. Iran rejects the latest U.S. demands." And that's coming from a Walter Bloomberg post here, which says Iran rejects U.S. Strait of Hormuz deal as, quote, unrealistic. Senior Iranian official Mohsen Rezaei said Tehran will not accept the U.S. plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz unless it includes reparations for war damage. He rejected Washington's proposed framework, saying Iran will not accept symbolic concessions and insists on, quote, tangible benefits in any agreement. Rezaei added that Iran will continue its, quote, resistance, signaling no softening in its stance despite ongoing negotiations. So that's also here. I have another one from the Clash report that I was going to put up, kind of the same thing being reported here. You can see here about 2 hours ago, senior Iranian official Mohsen Rezaei said Tehran will reject any U.S. plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz unless it includes, again, compensation for war damage. He said Iran wants, quote, tangible benefits, as we just talked about as well. So take it with a grain of salt, because I also saw here, let's see here. Yeah, there was this one here, because this one says also 2 hours ago, posted by the Clash report, Iran's foreign minister spokesperson, Esmail Baghaei, Iran is reviewing messages mediated by the Pakistani side. We have not yet reached a conclusion, and no response has been given to the American side yet. So kind of, again, from what I'm reading, my take on the situation, or my take on the reporting there is kind of, the two sides, or the multiple sides, we should say, that are now vying for power inside of the Iranian leadership, whether it be, people more closely or affiliated with the IRGC, or others that, again, vying for power. One saying that they haven't, given a conclusion or a response to the American side yet, and then others are now reporting that they have officially rejected Trump's, 14-point peace deal or memo that they had sent over there. So, again, just to kind of give you everything that's out there, all of the news, all of the reporting, and you guys can kind of come to your own assessments. Obviously the truth lies somewhere in the middle, as it typically does in the fog of war. But this is something else that's being reported here by the Clash report. This is talking about the U.S. intelligence believes that Iran could withstand Trump's Hormuz blockade for another 3 to 4 months before facing major economic strain, which is, again, not something that we've been hearing, totally against what we've been hearing from Trump and Hegseth. Like, they're on the verge of collapse. They've been collapsing for the last, 3, 4, 5 weeks now at this point in time. They're desperate for a capitulation. They're desperate for a peace agreement. So this is coming from a leaked CIA assessment that says Iran still has much of its missile and drone arsenal intact and has restored many underground facilities. The report contrasts with Trump's claims that Iran's military and economy are near collapse. Officials say Tehran is adapting by storing oil offshore, reducing production to protect infrastructure, and potentially using land routes to bypass the blockade, which is also something that we talked about the other day on the show. I believe it was the Pakistanis that were opening up land routes to get some of the oil to its destination, so that the Iranians could profit from that. Again, nothing like the money that they would be able to get from the use of all the ships that they would have. But again, this is coming from the Washington Post reporting, and I'll throw this on the screen. This is the exact article everybody's talking about here. So it says U.S. intelligence says Iran can outlast Trump's Hormuz blockade for months. A confidential intelligence community assessment delivered to the White House also finds that Iran retains a substantial missile and drone arsenal. So again, if we could just go through a couple paragraphs of this and just kind of, figure out what, again, and this is confidential CIA analysts. This is United States intelligence assessments. This isn't like, the health ministry of Gaza that everybody's going to say you can't believe, or, foreign assessment somewhere else. This is, again, a confidential CIA assessment leaked, and the Washington Post picked it up. So let's just take a look at this. This is by Warren Strobel, John Hudson, and Ellen Nakashima. And again, we'll read this. So a confidential CIA analysis delivered to the administration policymakers this week concludes that Iran can survive the U.S. naval blockade for at least 3 to 4 months before facing severe economic hardship. 4 people familiar with the document said, a finding that appears to raise new questions about Donald Trump's optimism on ending the war. And again, just think about where we will be in the United States, or again, the world economy, the Pacific Asian markets, the European markets will be jet fuel, for fertilizer, all of the things that are now being affected by the Strait of Hormuz being closed. If we're talking about another 3-4 months of this, just think about where we're going to be. Just think about where prices could be by then, especially after we're getting into, the summer months where historically gas prices rise. More people are driving, more people are taking trips. Additives have to be put into the, God damn, it's the third time I've knocked that over. But additives have to be added to the fuel to make sure that there's no combustion in the hot temperatures. And so, there's a lot that goes into it. But typically, as we always talk about, the gas prices are going up during the spring and summer months. So add that on top of everything. But this says here, the analysis by the U.S. intelligence community, whose secret assessments on Iran have often been more sober than the administration's public statements, also also found that Tehran retains significant ballistic missile capabilities despite weeks of intense U.S. and Israeli bombardment. 3 people familiar with the matter said Iran retains about 75% of its pre-war inventories of mobile launchers and about 70% of its pre-war stockpiles of missiles. And that's coming from a U.S. official, guys. A U.S. official is coming to this determinate. Like, what have we been saying? The last time we reported on this, or the first time I should say we talked about this, the assessments were somewhere between like 40, and they said it could be as high as 70% of their capabilities are still intact, can still be utilized. But to now here, a couple weeks later, about a month later, I'll guess, at when this first was reported here, or we talked about it on the show, we're now confirming, basically, per the U.S. analysis, that 75% of Iran's pre-war inventories of mobile launches and 70% of its pre-war stockpile of missiles still remain intact and able to be used. That's coming from a U.S. official. The official said that there is evidence that the regime has been able to recover and reopen almost all of its underground storage facilities, repair some damaged missiles, and even assemble some new missiles that were nearly complete when the war began. Trump painted a rosier picture in the Oval Office remarks on Wednesday, saying of Iran, their missiles are mostly decimated. They have probably 19%, but not a lot by comparison to what they had. And again, even that 19 or 18 to 19% that Trump is talking about here, or said in that statement, is much more than he's been saying, just prior to that. So he's been talking about how they've been completely wiped out. They have zero military capabilities. They have no launchers. They have no missiles. They have no drones. They have no Navy. They have no fucking Air Force. We've all heard it 15,000, 20,000 times come out of the guy's mouth. So now that he's kind of walking that back a little bit, and now he's given like 18, 19%, I don't know if that means that he knew this assessment was coming out or whatnot. Somebody kind of gave him the old nudge to the ribs and say, hey, just so you know, there's going to be assessment dropping by the Washington Post. You might want to stop saying that we've decimated the entirety of their missile capabilities, because our own assessments, our own intel is coming up with vastly different outcomes compared to what you're saying. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but he's now changed his tune to 18 to 19%, but not a lot by comparison to what they had. Again, 75% of what they had pre-war is absolutely a lot in comparison to what they had pre-war. Considering the amount of strikes, considering the amount of fucking, money that we've spent, the amount of troops in the area, the amount of military action, the amount of applauding and fucking back patting that you guys have done with this, so-called, amazing and what is it? What do they call it? What did Trump call it? The best military action in the history of the world or something. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but something along those lines, and it pissed me off. That was the show that I brought up, Patton's Third Army and their push to relieve the besieged 101st at Bastogne. Like, that's an incredible military feat, okay? Don't give me this fucking bullshit about anything that we've seen here, but I digress. It goes on to say that 3 current and 1 former U.S. official confirmed the outlines of the intelligence analysis, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive matter. Asked for comment, a senior U.S. intelligence official emphasized the blockade's impact. The president's blockade is inflicting real compounding damage, severing trade, crushing revenue, and accelerating systemic economic collapse. Iran's military has been badly degraded, yada, 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 going on with their typical propaganda that they've been coming out with. Trump's defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, and other officials have consistently presented the war as an overwhelming U.S. military victory. Despite Iran's rejection of Washington's demands that it abandon nuclear enrichment, surrender its uranium stockpiles, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and take other steps. Trump called the blockade, quote, unbelievable on Wednesday. Quote, the Navy has been incredible. The job they did, it's like a wall of steel. Nobody goes through, he said. A day prior, he said Iran's economy is, quote, crashing. Its currency is worthless, and it can't pay its troops. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, touting the president's sanctions regime, dubbed economic Epstein fury, noted in late April that the Iran's main oil terminal would soon reach capacity, causing permanent damage to Iran's oil infrastructure. But Iran has proved resilient, despite losing its supreme leader and many other top officials to missile strikes, as well as much of its military hardware. They go on. It says one of the U.S. officials who spoke to the Washington Post said that though Iran's capacity to endure prolonged economic hardship is far greater than even the CIA estimate says, The leader has gotten more radical, determined, and increasingly confident that they can outlast the United States politically and will sustain domestic repression to check any resistance. Inside Iran, the official said, comparatively, you will see regimes lasting years under sustained embargoes and air power-only wars. Since it says the war began February 28th, Iran has effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, a vital channel for shipping oil from the Persian Gulf. A week after the ceasefire was reached, April 7th, Trump imposed a blockade on Iran. We know this. It goes on to say, on Sunday, Trump launched a mission that he called Project Freedom, which we'll go on to talk about. A goal to help commercial vessels transit the strait, including U.S. Navy escorts, only to say Tuesday that the operation had been paused because of quote-unquote great progress in peace talks. And we'll go on and we'll find out that that may not be the case. Iran's foreign ministry confirmed Wednesday that it was reviewing a U.S. proposal to end the war and would relay its response via Pakistani mediators, as we just talked about, now being reported allegedly that it is now being rejected. Iran's economy is reeling from the effects of the war as well from persistent inflation and economic mismanagement. White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly goes on to talk about some more propaganda, but there was just one other piece of this that I wanted to touch base on as well. It says here, the CIA estimate says Iran can survive the U.S. blockade for 90 to 120 days, and as we just mentioned in the previous paragraph, could be even longer than that. It says even maybe longer, before facing severe economic hardship, the four people familiar with the matter said. Tehran is storing some of its oil aboard tanker ships that otherwise would be empty because of the blockade, one of the people said. It is also decreasing the flow in its oil fields to ensure the wells remain functional. It is nowhere near as dire as some have claimed, this person said of Iran's economic situation. The CIA analysis, might even be underestimating Iran's economic resilience if Tehran is able to smuggle oil via overland routes, like we've talked about. Truck and rail convoys can't replace the volume of ships and open sea lanes, but might provide an economic cushion, one of the U.S. officials said. There's a belief that they could begin moving some oil via rail through Central Asia. On the matter of Iranian weapons, the confidential intelligence assessment said that Iran's inventory of missile and mobile launchers remains formidable. Right there. You can say it right there. Remains formidable. Again, we're talking about 70 to 75% of their capabilities of their drones and missiles still intact from the beginning of the war. Like, what the fuck has the United States been hitting? What have we been targeting besides girls' schools, right? Besides hospitals? What the fuck are we hitting? Apparently, we ain't hitting the right shit. I can tell you that much. Because if we've taken out 15 or 20,000 fucking targets, allegedly, and they still have 75% of their missile capabilities left, we hitting the wrong shit. I'm just fucking putting it out there. And maybe this has something to do with the intel and the assessments that we heard before that Iran was utilizing. I forget what they were called now, but they were like these dummy, I don't know if they were projections or stickers or whatever the hell they were, but it kind of looked like that they had targets and missile launchers there. I think they got this intelligence and abilities, maybe in an idea from China, if I'm remembering the reports correctly. But basically, the U.S. were targeting these kind of like dummy sites, if you will. You know, much like the United States military set up in World War II to trick the German military to thinking that we were attacking in the Pas-de-Calais during D-Day, right? So that's kind of, you know, we got tricked by our own fucking medicine almost in that regard. But, like, what the fuck have we been hitting? Because it sure as hell wasn't their missile sites. I can tell you that much. And if we did hit their missile sites, we didn't hit them good enough if they were just able to fucking dig them out right after, as being talked about here. But it goes on. It gets worse. Iran is thought to have had roughly 2,500 ballistic missiles before the war began, as well as thousands more unarmed drones. Iran has used those weapons to launch retaliatory strikes against U.S. allies in the Gulf, as well as U.S. military sites across the region. A post-visual investigation found that Iranian strikes have damaged or destroyed at least 228 structures or pieces of equipment at U.S. military sites in the Middle East, a level of destruction far larger than what has been publicly acknowledged by the United States government, basically saying they're lying to your goddamn face. So the timeline for when Iran can again start producing ballistic missiles in substantial quantities has shortened, one of the officials said. To control traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, however, the missiles matter less than the low-cost drones, as we've been saying. Drones, drones, drones. Analysts inside and outside the government say, and unlike medium-range ballistic missiles that can strike, say, Israel, these drones can be built in small warehouses and easily concealable facilities, another U.S. official said. So again, another huge problem that we're now facing with the advent and proliferation of drones on the battlefield in war. All it takes is one drone to hit a ship, and no one will give insurance. A lot of what we've been saying coming to fruition here and talked about in U.S. intelligence assessments. I'm just saying. Doesn't take, these ships getting struck directly, right? They don't have to sink these boats. They don't have to sink these ships or vessels directly. All they got to do is just show everybody that they still have the capabilities to lob a couple drones into the strait every now and again, lob a couple fucking, missiles into the strait every again, and it's going to fucking have an impact on the insurance companies. Obviously, the shipping companies aren't going to want to send their cargo, and obviously their manpower, their employees through that strait if it's mined and they still have drone and missile capabilities. Just saying. So that's going to have a big impact as well. In early April, the U.S. intelligence community assessed that more than half of Iran's missile launches were still intact and that it had thousands of one-way attack drones in its arsenal. Goes on to say, Centrinowitz, a former head of the Iran branch in Israeli military intelligence, said that even if the blockade lasted several months, it would not force the regime to bend to Washington's demand. The problem is that they don't need to capitulate. Again, this is going in the face of everything that we've been told by this administration, our own administration, on they're just about to crack. They're just about to capitulate. They're just about to throw in the towel. They've been reaching out through every avenue possible to try to get a good deal because they want this to end. Well, that's not what I've been getting from any of the reports, anybody that we've talked to or looked at as far as, Iranian spokespeople, people from the IRGC, people closely affiliated with some of the leaders or people that are saying that they're leaders at this point. None of it has gone in line with what the United States military, the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth or Donald Trump is telling us and continues to tell us. And, put that on the entire Republican Party that continues to defend this as well. You know what I mean? It says, in the end, he said, despite U.S. and Israeli military successes in Iran, the war's outcome still could be a strategic failure. And that's exactly what it has been, and that's exactly what it's continued to be. We continue to see resilience. We continue to see the ability and willingness to control the strait by the Iranians, not to play ball with anything that Donald Trump says, to stick to their talking points, to stick to the things that they want agreed upon, and to not fucking come to the table unless those things are seriously going to be discussed. Otherwise, it seems like they're more than happy and, per the U.S. intelligence assessment, more than capable of keeping this fucking war going to a point where we're really going to start to feel it in this country. Right? I mean, again, think of this for another 3 or 4 months, if not longer, where gas prices are going to be at, the instability in the economy, the instability in the stock market, what oil prices are going to look like. Again, if we're talking another 3 to 4 months, does the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the, in the proxies of Iran, the Houthis, does that now come into play and add to the economic pressure, the economic stress put on the world economy? I mean, it hasn't been talked about here, but I wouldn't put it past, the Iranians for, again, trying to play another card, trying to utilize another geopolitical, geographical place that they could kind of, put a stranglehold on that would have instant impact and instant effect, much like they've had with the Strait of Hormuz. But again, that is a U.S. intelligence leak, a CIA leak from the Washington Post. And again, as reported by Warren Strobel, John Hudson, and Ellen Nakashima. Credit where credit is due on that one. So much of what we've been saying here seems to be confirmed here by these intelligence assessments, right? Report after report after report that we've brought up, that we've talked about here on this show, again, flies directly in the face of everything that you're being told and kind of lines up with exactly what we're seeing in reality, what we're seeing taking place on the ground, right? Unfortunately, it seems like the Iranian side and the Iranian spokespeople, whoever they may be, as crazy as they may be, seem to have, a much more kind of clear grasp on what's taking place, where this is going, and who holds the power in this whole situation than anybody here on the side of the United States. But it goes on because, let me throw this on the screen. Again, we continue to look at some of these different accounts. This is MB Galibaf. He is the Speaker of the Islamic Republic of Iran's parliament. And he posted this 21 hours ago. He says, Operation Trust Me Bro failed. Now back to routine with Operation Foxios. And I'm just assuming that is a take, a kind of a play on Axios and Barack Ravid's reporting. that he's been kind of crawling out of Donald Trump's asshole to make every now and again to try to affect, and to try to, stabilize the market if he can. Talking about, oh, right around the corner, we got a deal being done. Donald Trump's getting this amazing deal done. We've sent through a bunch of these memos. They're just on the cusp of this deal, so everybody stop freaking out. These gas prices can go down. The oil price, oh, you're wrong again? Oh, okay. That's about the 14th time that he's been wrong. But again, this being posted by the Speaker of the Islamic Republic of Iran's parliament is not telling me capitulation, okay? It's not telling me let's get to the negotiating table right away because we can't handle this war anymore. This is saying, hey, this is like a nana fucking poo-poo type of thing. Like, fuck you idiots. You think you have the power, but we do. Operation Trust Me Bro failed, talking about Project Freedom. Now back to routine with Operation Foxios, which is, again, relying upon Axios and Barack Ravid to try to propagandize the world into believing that there's some sort of agreement in place. So that's what's being said there by Barack Ravid. Now, these videos now might even be kind of irrelevant since the time I brought them up this morning because of the new reporting that the Iranians have allegedly, and like I said, take it with a grain of salt, rejected the 14-point plan. But this is a big gamble. Amanpour untangles Hormuz negotiation nuance. So I just wanted to see if we can get any more insight in the first couple minutes of this. I think, what's her name? Is her name Christian Amanpour? My apologies if I'm getting that wrong. What's up, Adam? What's up, brother? Mahalo, dude. I see you down in there. Shout out to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Substack, and Instagram. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is Brian. This is Blunt Politics. We just try to break down the bullshit, the lies, the propaganda coming from, the Donald Trump administration, the mainstream media, and just kind of breaking it down like family and friends do. Now we're on to talking about a little bit of the nuance and what we might see take place. Again, we're trying to dive into this. I wanted to wait and dive into it with you. So not 100% sure what we're going to learn, but let's see if we can learn something. Hit that like button. I'm Boston Brian, and I really do appreciate you guys for contributing in that chat. I thank you guys for anybody sending a Venmo right up in the corner. All the super chats, super stickers, milestones. We recognize all of those at the end of the show, so make sure you stick around. If you do send a contribution in, and even if you don't send one in, stick around to the end because you'll have some good information to be learned too. We got a lot else to cover, a lot else to talk about as well. But let's hop into, like I said, a minute or two of this. This is titled, "This is a Big Gamble. Amanpour untangles Hormuz negotiation nuance." So let's just see if there's anything else, or again, if this is completely irrelevant now that the Iranians have allegedly rejected Donald Trump's 14-point plan. Let's go.
Now, according to President Trump, the U.S. has had, quote, very good talks with Iran over the last 24 hours. But the word from
zero talks as per reported. Right. I've seen them that they've had zero direct talks. Any talks is going through the Pakistani mediator. So the fact that he's again trying to make it seem like they've had these fantastic one-to-one negotiations, one-to-one talks. What I hit? I knew I hit something. I don't know what I hit, but I hit something. All right, let me go back, see if it works. I don't know what I did on that one. I could feel myself hit a weird button on the keyboard, and I'm not sure what it was. So I'll just see if I can go back to the old, let me see, I'll pop myself big on the screen. Let's go back to the history. It's in my history anyway. I knew I hit something. I couldn't get through the whole show without making a fool of myself, right? Just give me a second. I'll go through right in my latest watched here. What was I gonna fucking show you? Now I forget what it was. Oh, the CNN. Was it the CNN one? Yeah, it was the CNN one. All right, let me go back. Good grief. See, you try to have everything set up, and it's one button. Yeah, I got it right here.
Now, according to President Trump, the U.S. has had, quote, very good talks.
No, you pause, and I'll throw it back on. How about that? There we go. All right, we're back at it like a crack addict, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies. My fat fingers hit some sort of button there, and I could tell that it wasn't going to be good. But here we go. This is titled The Big Gamble. Again, I believe her name is Christian, something along those lines. Amanpour, untangling the Hormuz negotiation nuance. And this is, again, just to see if we get any more insight, information, details on maybe what side both sides are saying, any updates. But again, it also could be completely irrelevant considering, like I said before, I hit my fat finger on the button that the Iranians have, rejected allegedly Donald Trump's 14-point plan. All right, let's dive into this. I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button.
Talks with Iran over the last 24 hours. But the word from inside Iran seems to be mixed. One of Tehran's top negotiators is mocking the president's brief operation to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz. He wrote the, quote, Operation Trust Me Bro failed. Sarah?
All right.
So what's that? Christian Christian Amanpour. All right. I wasn't that far off. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, MT. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
His CNN chief international anchor, Christian Amanpour. Just let's first start with this. You saw the operation.
Hey, I think I said it better than she did. I think I was closer than she was here. Let's not get it twisted. Let's go here. I'm giving myself a little credit for that one. I think I was a little closer than even she was.
Trust me, bro, that was put out by one of the chief negotiators. But you also heard Donald Trump spoke to Fox News on the phone saying this should be wrapped up in a week. So what are you sort of expecting at this point when you hear all these different views at the same time?
Well, I think they are the same views that we've been hearing. First, defiance from the Iranian side and a very sophisticated trolling activity. And secondly, President Trump literally talking all the time to various individual news organizations or in press conferences or whenever the camera is in his face about what actually he thinks is going to happen. What is absolutely clear is neither the United States nor Iran wants to go back to full-scale war. It is not in anybody's interest, neither the US and the rest of the world nor Iran. So now the question has always been for the last weeks of this ceasefire, who has the highest patience level and pain threshold? And this is what is the big gamble right now, the big sort of wait and see. So if there is this one-page document that will try to open up the Strait of Hormuz, deal with that, President Trump declares victory and then tries to deal and must deal with the nuclear issue, then that seems to be probably more likely. Let us not forget.
But again, I don't know. Let me see when this actually was put out there. This video was put out about 6 hours ago. So this is probably before, obviously recorded before the time of the new reporting that Iran has allegedly rejected the new 14-point deal. But she's spot on. And again, going back to the CIA leak, and just how long the Iranians could possibly hold out and where the United States would be in another 90, 120 days, possibly more, if the Strait stays closed that long. Again, if the world economy is staying impacted the way it's been impacted like it has for that long, who's going to last the longest? I think the pressure is going to mount on the side of, again, the Pacific Asian countries, the European countries, obviously here at home in the United States, maybe to a point where the Iranians could outlast us, depending on how much they could store offshore, how many land routes they can open up, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot that's going to go into it. But again, who can last longer? Where do we think we're going to be in another 120 days if this stays closed? I mean, I don't know. Looks like the war of attrition may be on the side of the Iranians again. They're winning the propaganda war, seems to be winning the military war as far as, complete and total control over the Strait. And now it looks like they may be winning the geopolitical war by coming out with more respect, more power on the world stage. What's this say? We're having trouble streaming to Facebook. This may be an issue on Facebook. God damn it. For crying out loud. Well, screw Facebook. I'm going to remove it for a second. I'll put it back in just a second if I can. Sorry. My apologies to everybody on Facebook. Let me see if I can put that back up. Save changes. That should be a quick fix. Let's see here. Are we back up? Give me a shout out. We should be in 3, 2, 1. Back up on Facebook. All right. My apologies, Facebook. My apologies. Hopefully you're coming back up with me. Thank you so much. Sorry, don't know what that was. But anyways, the point remains, right? Who can last the longest? Who's going to be in a worse position in 90, 120 days? The fact remains that they still have 75% of their missile capabilities left. So if this does kick back off, if we do start to see an escalation, much like we're seeing Israel start their strikes into Lebanon, we're seeing more strikes into Gaza. Obviously, what we're seeing as far as the Israeli settlers in the West Bank pushing Palestinians out of their homeland as well. Put all this together, and it doesn't seem like the greatest of situations, let's just put it mildly, to say if it does in fact kick back off to bombs being dropped, missiles being sent into the Middle Eastern countries, missiles being continuously sent into the bases that have been hammered, the 238 different facilities and pieces of infrastructure that have been hit per the Iranians, per the U.S.-owned intelligence assessments. But all right, let's just see if there's any other news to gain from this. If not, we'll go on to the next reporting, which is more of why the Project Freedom was canned in 24 hours. Donald Trump says it was because of these great negotiations. Barack Ravid says it was because of these fantastic negotiations that were being had and the progression in those. But we're now finding out a little bit more about what actually took place and who might have made some phone calls to Donald Trump and were pissed off about those actions, and why the United States military actually put a fucking X on those maneuvers, on that action in less than 24 hours after, again, reporting it as like 15,000 troops in action, a big fucking, like, a big operation to go save everybody in the strait, open up the strait. Pete Hegseth said that they had a red, white, and blue dome over the strait, and it was wide open, basically. So we're learning more about that, but just another minute or two from this to see if we get any more information here.
Yeah, that none of these operations that the United States has tried, the latest being Operation Freedom, so-called, to move boats and escort them out of the strait, has worked. They just haven't worked. In the meantime, the world economy gets worse and worse. Iran is in a whole load of pain economically. There's civilians, the poverty level, the wastage to the,
But again, that assessment seems to fly in the face of our own intel assessments. Yes, is there an economic crunch being put on Iran? Absolutely. Are they feeling the pain of the blockade? Absolutely. Right? Have they been degraded militarily? Absolutely. I don't think anybody's living in like an alternate universe as far as any of those talking points, any of those sticking points are concerned. But again, per our own assessments, allegedly per the leaks, they are in a much better position, or again, not as a bad position as we would have ourselves believe, right? As we're being told by our own administration, which makes it seem like they could last a lot longer in this conflict at this pace, having this situation continue like this much longer than we originally anticipated.
Infrastructure, obviously, their weapons, systems, and all the rest of it have been dramatically weakened. So the question is now, what is Iran going to say back to the latest U.S. proposal, knowing, as we know, that they are prepared for more?
And again, I'll answer the question for her per the reporting. Again, if you're just joining us, multiple different people now reporting that Iran rejects U.S. Strait of Hormuz deal as unrealistic. This is Walter Bloomberg. Like I said, this was also talked about and posted by Adam Cochran. I believe I also saw it reported on a Midas Touch video as well. Clash report here. Also reporting the same thing, senior Iranian official Monzen Rezaei said Tehran will reject any U.S. peace plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz unless it includes compensation for the war damage. But like I said, take it with a grain of salt, because up here, this reporting also says that no response has been given to the American side yet. Again, you guys might know a little bit more. Haven't been live for the last 40 or so minutes. A lot changes in 40 or so minutes. A lot of updates and details can come in 40 or so minutes. So let me know if there's anything that I'm missing, any other details or more confirmation for more, let's say, I don't know what you'd say, mainstream or widespread or trustworthy. Not trustworthy. That's a bad word to say, because I don't want to say that these are untrustworthy by any stretch of the imagination. But again, if there's any more confirmation, let's just put it mildly like that. But again, take it with a grain of salt. That's what's been reported. That's what's being talked about as well. But let's see if we can just dive into this, because like I said, this next video here is going to discuss a little bit about the new information that we're learning about why Project Freedom, the secondary action, this ridiculous attempt to get around the 60-day deadline in which Congress is supposed to have the authorization to vote on the continued military use or not by the U.S. military. So they're trying to get around that by naming these things. Epstein fury is over. That has concluded. So there's no reason for us to go to Congress type of thing. Well, you talked about, and we reported here on the show, this huge new operation, Project Freedom, that was enacted. There was a huge press conference. Donald Trump was really fucking going heavy on this Project Freedom, what it was going to do as far as opening up the strait, forcing the Iranians to come to the negotiating table, yada, yada, yada. We heard and saw the press conference from Pete Hegseth and Dan King. But that was supposed to involve 15,000 troops. That was going to involve hundreds of different ships, helicopters, drones, you name it, was going to be involved. It was going to be a big rescue mission. It was going to open up the strait wide. We were going to paint a red, white, and blue dome, yada, 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 all over the strait. Well, that, in fact, didn't last even 24 hours. And again, as what the exact timeline was, it was somewhere in that time frame. Don't hold me to the 24-hour mark, but it ended a lot well before anybody even thought it would, well before it even started or got underway, for that matter. But here's a little bit more reporting to suggest that it was a phone call from some of our allies in the region that actually made Donald Trump, that put pressure on Donald Trump to end Project Freedom. So let's just see if we can dive into a minute or two of this. And again, this is just some more reporting. Trump's surrender explained. Saudi blocked U.S. air bases. This is also detailing and talking about our allies now that are disallowing, not approving the military use of their air bases, of their air spaces. As we've seen kind of a continued through line in this fight, and people not willing to jump to Donald Trump's side in this illegal, unconstitutional, incredibly destabilizing war that they've initiated side by side with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. But again, let's see if we can hear a little bit more, find out a little bit more about why Donald Trump actually canceled Project Freedom. And that's DUMB, if you were wondering.
Start with that blockbuster news out of Saudi Arabia. Let's put this up here on the screen. Trump's abrupt U-turn on the plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz came after backlash from allies. Saudi Arabia, a key
that's not what we heard from the Trump administration. That's not at all what we heard. We heard from Barack Ravid, we heard from him and Axios and Trump that it was because of the great talks that they had, because of the unbelievable fucking steps that they've made in the peace negotiations and how close we were to having a deal done. That's not what we heard at all. That was just not even said remotely by Pete Hegseth or the Pentagon. So again, all this new information coming out about the backlash from our allies in the Gulf region or towards the Project Freedom that was enacted by Trump.
Suspended the U.S. military's ability to use its bases and airspace to carry out the operation. Trump's abrupt reversal came specifically on Project Freedom on Sunday afternoon. Now, initially, the market and others thought that this was a sign, the announcement of Project Freedom, only for 2 days later to back off of it. Now, the abrupt dismissal was initially thought by the market, by us, and others as, wow, so talks with the Iranians must be really, really serious. This must be progressing in a very good.
Well, that's not necessarily what people thought. That's what people were told. That's what people were promised. That's what people in the administration and the propagandists that they have working for them wanted everybody to believe. That wasn't what was actually taking place, right? We find out now what was actually taking place and what phone calls were made behind the scenes.
Because why else would you call off an operation which 24 hours before the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs were announcing in their bluster and in all their glory? Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out that in a call between Trump and the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, the issue not only was not resolved, but the KSA stood their ground. And the reasoning behind it is that they said they would not allow the military to fly aircraft from the Prince Sultan Air Base southeast of Riyadh or fly through any Saudi airspace to support the effort. We also need to shout out Ryan Grimm, who reported and apparently had the story. He was sitting on it. He didn't get there just fast enough to the issue. But what he found out was that Kuwait also had told the U.S. that they cannot use their airspace or their bases to conduct the operation. And obviously,
I think there was also a list here. Let me see if I have this pulled up as well. I thought I had the drop site reporting here. Let's see here. I think it was also on their page. This is talking about an Israeli double tap, which we'll talk about in just a minute after this clip as well. But let me see here, because I think there was multiple nations, if I'm not mistaken, as reported by one of these here. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Might have been lower on the totem pole, lower on the old totem pole. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves for just a minute, because I think there was like a list that they had posted here of different countries. Israel attacks. Nope, that's about the Israeli attacks. Iran's mission. Let's see here. No, that's not it either. I thought it was just around here, if I'm not mistaken, per the administration. Well, even if I don't find it, it's out there. You could probably type it up in your old Google machine and it should pull it up. But there is a list of different countries that are, again, were at least telling the United States that they weren't going to be able to use their bases or their air spaces. I don't want to waste too much of your time, though. No, that hasn't been pulled up. So again, my apologies. I think it may be in one of these other things that I pulled up, but it is out there. I do remember seeing it. There was a list reported out there of all of the different countries that, again, were disallowing the United States their use of their bases or airspaces in general. But that, again, goes back to why the United States was actually canceling, stopping this, Operation Project Freedom, whatever the hell you want to call it. And again, not what we were told in public, not what we were told by the administration as to why they were stopping this.
Obviously, this is proof beyond any measure that the Iranian policy of horizontal escalation and of punishing Gulf allies has been tremendously successful, because what the Saudis, the Kuwaitis saw was, with the announcement of Project Freedom, the immediate targeting of the Fujairah oil plant in the UAE, the only one.
Right. So again, this is talking about and going towards that U.S. intelligence assessment of the Iranians' capabilities, right? And that assessment being recognized by the Gulf partners, by our Gulf partners in the region, right? That Iran still had the ability, if the United States is going to continue this blockade, if they were going to go against what the Iranians were saying and send their warships into the Strait, that Iran, much like they did with the Fujairah port, was going to continue lobbing their missiles and drones into these places, which again is having a huge impact on tourism, which is having a huge impact on the economy in these places. I mean, not a lot of rich people are flying to Dubai to go have a vacation while they're under threat of missile and drone attack. I think that's pretty easily understood as well. So this all kind of goes hand in hand with the capabilities that everybody still has to respect, that the Iranians still have right now. And again, if the fucking United States decide to fuck around, it's going to be our Gulf partners, the allies in the regions that have U.S. bases, that are going to eventually find out. You know what I mean? So that's why the phone call was made. That's why the partners in the region were like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? We're going to pay the price, not you assholes. So you better knock this off. And again, that's why the bullshit was put out there by Trump and Barack Ravid, to try to get everybody to believe that a negotiation in a peace deal was right around the corner.
They're able to export oil from outside of the Strait of Hormuz. Saudi Arabia sits in terror at attacks on the East-West pipeline and the Yanbu oil facility, which is in the Red Sea, in addition to Houthis, which, remember, did not ever join the war, even with shutting out the entire Strait of Hormuz. Kuwait, we got the news, has not exported a single barrel of oil in 30 days. I mean, look, they have plenty of money, but nobody has that much money to sustain your economy in a total 30-day shutdown of the vast, amount of your imports. So these two things combined show actually much less confidence, I think, in any of these talks that are allegedly happening between Iran and in Washington, and instead a curtailing and a really humiliation of the American empire. Because what we've also seen is not only now a rejection of these U.S. traditional allies, the Gulf and Kuwait, but we've been unable to protect them sufficiently that they feel okay with letting us that. And also the fact that we have our aircraft carriers and others outside of range of Iranian drones and missiles, but that means that you are very reliant on these ground air refueling. And many of these bases and others, they took tremendous damage throughout the war, which we also have some images of, which we'll show people later in the show.
This is a wild insight into the real dynamics that underpin this war. It also really calls into question for me those reports that Saudi was alongside Israel also pushing for this war to start. It's still possible that they were and just didn't realize how extremely bad.
We don't need to dive into too much more of that. That's kind of the assessment that I wanted to talk about, and basically the reason why Donald Trump decided to taco out of the Project Freedom entirely. And it's not the story that they were giving you publicly. It's not the story that you were being told by, Barack Ravid and those other idiots that have been continuously doing the propaganda work for this administration. It's just not what you were being told by any stretch of the imagination. And it wouldn't be good optics, wouldn't be a good look if they did come out with this. But we're now finding out behind the scenes that that's exactly what did take place. The fears of our, of these different Gulf regions, these different Gulf countries, fear of retaliation by the Iranians because of the capabilities that they still have. Again, going right together with the intel assessments by the United States. But let's throw this one on the screen too, because this is, again, news from the region as well, talking about Israel now launching strikes into Lebanon once again, and obviously now launching attacks into Gaza, as we've seen continued since this, fake non-existent ceasefire. So this is just reports from Drop Site. Israel double tap strike on rescue team, wounds 4 paramedics in Lebanon. Israel strikes hit multiple areas across southern Lebanon Thursday, including Toul in the Nabatea district near Rageb Harb Hospital, where an airstrike was followed by a drone attack on rescue teams responding to the scene. An ambulance belonging to the Islamic Health Committee was destroyed and 4 paramedics were wounded, with footage shared by journalists showing the aftermath. Additional strikes and shelling were reported across the Nabatea. My apologies for my mispronunciation of that. The governorate, including the Deir, the Mifdun, Bush, Nabatea al-Fuqa, Kefar Ruman, the Deir al-Zanrani, and the Kufar, per journalists and other local reports. Strikes also hit Yatar and Darkifa in the Sour district conflict near Lebanon's southern coast. A drone strike on a scooter between Brika and, I'm just butchering all of these, Sabaya, I'm going to go with, both located on the north of the Israeli border in southern Lebanon, seriously injured the rider Pour l'Orient today. And again, these reports are coming in from all different outlets, all different people, as we're going to look at here. Here's one from just Ground News. It's putting all these things together. Israeli strikes killed 3 Palestinians, including a child in Gaza. Again, above and beyond the strikes in Lebanon. On Tuesday, Israeli strikes killed at least 3 Palestinians in Gaza, including a 15-year-old child at a police station. Medics said violence has persisted in Gaza despite an October 2025 fake ceasefire, with Israel conducting almost daily attacks on Palestinians while Hamas maintains control over the Strip. Medics reported a Palestinian killed in the Sheikh Radwan, another near the central area, and a strike on a police station killed a 15-year-old Mahmoud Sawil. At La Shifa Hospital, relatives gathered to bid farewell to Mohammed El Gandour, while the Hamas-run Interior Ministry reported some policemen were also wounded in the attack. Israel says strikes aim to thwart Hamas and Palestinian militants, though medic reports at least 830 Palestinians have been killed since this fake, non-existent ceasefire took effect. And again, this is another bit of reporting coming out from this as well. This is Israel kills Hezbollah's commander in first strike on Beirut amid ceasefire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz announced the attack in a joint statement on Wednesday. And again, this is talking about Israel said on Thursday it had killed the commander of Hezbollah's elite Radwan force in an airstrike on Beirut a day earlier, the first Israeli attack on Lebanese capital since a ceasefire agreed to last month. The Israeli military said the commander was killed when Israel struck the southern suburb of Beirut. There was no immediate confirmation from Hezbollah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz announced in a joint statement on Wednesday. The strike had raised pressure on the ceasefire that has halted Israeli attacks on Beirut, even as Israeli forces have remained deployed in areas south of the Litani River and continued to carry out strikes in southern Lebanon. So again, this is going to be a point of contention towards the negotiations, or lack thereof, we should say, going on between the United States and Iran. As we've talked about in the 10-point plan that Iran had put forward, it was the fact that Israel definitely, damn sure, needed to stop their attacks inside of Lebanon in order to get these peace talks going. So the more that we see this ramp up, and again, obviously what we've continued to watch and take a look at and cover inside of Gaza as well, clearly now more going on, more videos to play. Some of them, obviously, most of them so bad that I can't play them on the show, as far as the Israeli settler movement and what's happening in the West Bank and the pressure and the violence that we're seeing on the Palestinians in that area. I mean, those have just been coming out hot and heavy. That has ramped up almost in every single direction, every single way. So that's obviously going to be a point of contention as well. But what do you say we dive into this next clip? Because this is probably the most blatant clip I've seen yet of foreigners, people outside of the country, not foreigners negatively, but just foreigners as in people not from the United States. That's all. Looking at the United States, looking at Donald Trump specifically, and laughing directly in our faces. Like, just utterly bewildered by the stupidity, the ignorance, and the sycophancy of not only Donald Trump, but the people that surround him and will placate him and will tell him he's right when he's clearly wrong. Let me throw this on the screen, because this is kind of remarkable for me to watch. On one hand, it was like, you're absolutely right. On the other hand, it's like, the Homer Simpson moment where you want to just fucking reverse yourself back into the bush so nobody can see you. Like, that's the point that we're at right now. It is just utterly fucking embarrassing to be an American, to have this regime in charge, to be in any way, shape, or form trying to represent you as an American on the world stage. It's just fucking disgusting. So the gentleman on top, you might recognize, he is from The Sun. We've checked into his videos a lot as it pertains to the war in Ukraine. So if you do find him familiar, that's where you've seen him from. He does, I forget what the updates are now. We look at so many different accounts. It's The Sun, and he's got some sort of name for his updates. He does pretty good work as far as that's concerned. But here, I think he's on with a different podcast, and they're talking about Donald Trump doing maths. Okay. They're talking about Donald Trump doing maths. And again, if you're from the United States, like everybody, like I am, it's math. But if you're from outside of the United States, if you're from the Great Britain, then it's maths. But anyway, he's talking about how not only Donald Trump does his percentages, but also how the people in the background, like RFK, tell him that he's right. and will not correct him when he's wrong. But look at how he describes this and how they basically just laugh right in the face. They just have no other like outlet right now than other just like again, bewilderment, just laughter. Check this out.
Look, if I get my spectacles like that, okay, and I'm holding that, what happens if I take my finger and thumb away?
Oh, they drop onto the table.
Correct.
Yeah.
They've dropped onto the
See, I
table, right?
got that
Okay.
one right.
That is a basic fact that we all accept.
Yeah.
We understand gravity.
Yeah.
Because of Trump and Putin and polarization, there's nothing that is accepted universally as truth apart from science and maths. If you see a shop and it says 50% off everything,
Yes. Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
And you go in and before you bought a mug in there that cost £10.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Five-
already laughing, right? He's already laughing at how stupid this is, at how ridiculous this is, and the fact that he has to explain this. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this is how low we've sunk as far as like trust or respect on the world stage. This is where we're at right now.
Pounds now.
If something's 100% off,
It would be free.
if it was 200% off,
Then the shopkeeper would have to give me money, maybe?
correct.
Yeah.
So you can't have more than 100% drop. So why does Donald Trump constantly say that he's cut drug prices by variously 300%, 400%, 500%, and 1200%? And why is that not covered anywhere in the world's media?
What do we think he means?
Robert Kennedy Jr. explained what he meant. He was asked by Elizabeth Warren at a Senate hearing, what was the difference of the cost of a drug on Trump RX, which is their website, and the price at Costco? He said this: President Trump has a different way of calculating percentages. There are two ways of calculating percentages. He then goes on to say, if you have a $600 drug and it goes to $10,
Yeah.
that's a 600% reduction.
No, it's not.
No, it's 98.33%.
Correct.
The next day in the Oval Office,
Yeah.
Kennedy reports to Trump on his encounter with Warren, with the
Yeah.
world's media there.
Yeah.
He says she was ridiculing President Trump for his math, saying you can't reduce something by 600%. So Kennedy, thinking he's smart, tries to show her wrong. He said if a drug went from $100 to $600, that's a 600% rise. That is a 500% rise.
He's trying to say it's a 500% rise, and therefore Trump might think it's a 600% reduction.
It's actually an 83.3% change.
So bad.
Okay.
It's
Now,
so
Trump then
bad.
steps in. I would say 500, 600, 700. We also say sometimes 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. People
Look at
understand.
him. He's now like, he's got his hands on his head, like, how the fuck is this real life, right? Like, how are we discussing this as like what the United States president and his cabinet and the people surrounding him are talking about and actually believe, or may not believe, but are willing to defend and are willing to go out there and bullshit for? Like, he's like, I don't even understand what the fuck is happening right now. That's how we all feel, bro. That's how we all feel. Believe me.
Understand that better. There's two ways of calculating it, but either way, it doesn't make any difference whether it's 60, 70, or 80. Nobody's ever heard of it. But it's also 500, 600, 700, depending on the way you want to look at it, the way you word the calculation. It's either way, but Bobby, you're doing a fantastic job.
Brilliant.
It's just nonsense. So look, if I get
Both of them at some point in time in that minute and 30-second clip end up with their hands on their heads like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what world are we living in right now? Like, there's not two ways to do maths, okay? There's just not two ways to do maths. There's not two ways to calculate what he's trying. You know what I mean? It's just like there's a single set of answers that we could come to per a separate set of like routes that we have to get there by. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck is happening? But I found that to be like really, really embarrassing and really enlightening at the same time. Like, that's where we are in this point in time. That's how like our government is viewed. That's what people are picking and choose, like not picking and choosing, but that's what people are listening to come from our president and the people that are standing behind him, laughing at his dumbass jokes, everything stupid that he says, and telling him that he's right about anything, no matter how wrong he is. Like, that's where we are. You're talking about, fascism. You talk about, authoritarianism. You're talking about the sycophancy of past, dictators and autocrats. Like, that's what we're looking at, people. And you pair that with the video that we watched, what was it, yesterday? The Good Liars at the Villages. And the people that are still like in fucking la la land when it comes to Donald Trump and the things that he's done and the Constitution and what that means and says, like, pair that up and you'll kind of, quickly recognize, kind of how low we've been dragged on the world stage. So I appreciate you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for sticking with me as you guys always do. Make sure you hit that like button. My name's Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Would go a long, long way if you guys would just hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 20K. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for sending in your super chats, reaching your milestones, sending in the super stickers, whatever it may be. Stick around to the end of the show so I can thank everybody. And then thank you guys so much to anybody that's been nice enough to reach out via Venmo, send a buck or two in, I don't drink coffee, but you can buy me a Powerade or a Gatorade or something like that just to say thanks or show your signs of appreciation as I do for you guys. But all right, let's dive into, what do you say we get into some Lego drops, huh? What do you say we get into, the fan favorite part of the show? Some new Lego drops coming out here, and then we have one oldie but goodie. Right, I wanted to kind of revisit some of the good ones that we've seen in the past. I have one pulled up that may kind of spark your memory as far as kind of what we've heard in the past. But this new one here, this is by AI Iran, so not one of the OGs as far as I can remember, but still diving into some of the very important details, the very important reporting and subjects that we should be continuously talking about here. This is Epstein Ska, it's called. Epstein Ska, and I'm saying Ska. S-C-A-R, ska. I don't know if you can't understand it. The thing you get when you get a cut, a fucking ska. You know what I mean? Sorry. But this is from, again, AI Iran, Epstein Ska. Let's dive into it, and then we'll go into one of the oldie but goodies. But shout out to these Lego bangers. Let's see what they got. Looks like we're starting off here with Trump in a diaper. Speaking to 60 Minutes, looks like he's got the Epstein files surrounding him. As you can see, we got Epstein files here. We got Epstein files just by his right side as well. So let's see what we're getting into here. I'm sure they're going to rip him pretty. And he's got the Israeli pin on, just in case anybody hasn't noticed. He's got instead of the American flag, he's got the Israeli flag on a pin.
You said you ain't no pedophile, but bitch, you are. They yelling worldwide for that Epstein scar, but you're still the prez, man, this shit's bizarre. You said you ain't no pedophile, but bitch, you are. The whole world knows that you perverted rapist star. 30 years since we build different, we don't break your people. See $5 gas and your whole country shakes. This ain't Call of Duty, these mountains, these troops alive, we are waiting for them. Come test it, no survivors. If they wanna die for Epstein's list and Netanyahu's war, we got the welcome ready, body bag stacked at the door. You came for war, but got caught instead.
Jesus, they got Trump on the rotisserie. They did him dirty. And he's still wearing the diaper. That's just extra disgusting. Can we get the diaper away from the fucking open meat, please? Jesus Christ. But they got him on the rotisserie, spinning like a fucking turkey, spinning like a pig on the spit. They got him on the spit in a diaper. Oh, shiza.
Iran flipped the script, left your whole team dead. You came for war, but got cooked instead. Weakest president ever, take that L and quit, bitch. Go fetch Epstein's pals, go fetch your lobby. This ain't a desert skirmish, this ain't your hobby. No points in these talks, cause the president of the United States of America is a fucking pedophile.
Oh, boy. Well, this one isn't holding back. I can tell you that much. The president of the United States is a fucking pedophile. Oh, shiza.
You thought you could hide, but we kept the file. Cause the president of the United States of America is a fucking pedophile. F5 ghosted your base. Kuwait smoke, throw jet back home. Legend mode, cheap drones on your millions, your patriots broke. Hit Al-Udeid hangars, Al-Assad runways turned to dust. Bases that took 10 years and billions, one night fucked. Came for war, but got cooked instead. Iran flipped the script, left your whole team dead. F-35s hid, radars blind, whole Air Force exposed. We rebuild in weeks, you need years just to reload. Slow ass.
Oh, shit. I mean, they're touching on a lot of things. I haven't stopped it because I want to keep it going, but they were just talking about the THAAD and Patriot missiles, right? Talking about the Iranians' capabilities, as we just discussed, per the CIA leak, comparative to what we've heard about their THAAD and missile interceptors, and obviously our stockpiles in general and how much they've been depleted. So again, it's touching base on a lot of these, like, not normal, but, news reports, things that are happening in real life.
Iran flipped the script, left your whole team dead. F-35s hid, radars blind, whole Air
Force. Radar's blind. It continues to talk about the military bases that were being hit, which we already touched on in this show. The amount of, I think it was 238 different, facilities, pieces of equipment and stuff like that, like a lot, substantial.
Exposed, we rebuild in weeks. You need years just
so right here, this is where you can see in the background THAAD and Patriot missiles above us, and it says you're going to need more than that to rebuild. You got Pete Hegseth with a bottle of Jack Daniels. I mean, they got pretty much everything covered here.
Slow ass. Let's talk about your resume, the biggest of L's. You're an Epstein pen pal, rotting in your own smells. You know why? Cause the president of the United States of America is a fucking pedophile. You president of the United States of America is a fucking pedophile.
Oh, all right. I mean, that's going up there in the books. I got to say, you know, AI Iran may not be one of the OGs, but, you know, I got to say, pretty well done. I got to say, it was pretty well. I like the swears. I like the bluntness. Again, it wasn't really much of a propaganda piece, if I'll be honest. Like, it's just the reporting. It's just what we've seen happen. It's just what we know about the dickheads that are in charge here in the United States. So, again, I struggle for anybody to be able to prove that as, like, propaganda. You know, but here's kind of one of the oldie but goodies I wanted to bring back as well. You know, just kind of doing some reminiscing at some of the good ones that we've seen in the past. I'm sure there's more that have come out, so I'll be sure to keep my eye on some of the new ones as well. But this is one that really kind of stuck with some people. So what do you say we kind of reminisce for a second? We'll go back to an oldie but goodie, a little throwback, if you will, to an Iran Lego banger that really stopped the world. Let's check this one out.
Hey, Orange Pig, America first? Oops. Oh boy, that was the slogan you stole. But Bibi's pulling strings and your vote is getting cold. We're not just fighting for Iran, hear this clear. Your people reached out to us, yeah, we got the DMs here. If one nation's gonna stand against the Epstein regime's fear, it's us till the last breath, we've been doing it for years. We're standing here for everyone, your system ever wrong, they've known all along. The enemy was always you. The real threat warriors Putin sung a patriotic song while selling their own citizens and calling it strong. Stealing from your own people, making them bleed, taking tax dollars just to fund your own greed. They waking up to the lies, the illusions of birth. You scream America first, nah, you put losers first. Make Israel great again. Your government is run by pedophiles. They ordered you to die for Israel. They ordered you to die for Israel. They lied to you all. We saw everything. If the public ever saw the files, man, the planet would shake.
I mean,
from the level
we might have a contender for best chorus, for best elite. We'll go chorus. Best chorus in a Lego banger so far. I'm throwing my vote in now for this one.
Crimes in your wake. No wonder Jack called you the worst, you degenerate snake. You claimed you never set foot. You went 40 plus times. You sick bastard, you cook. You stepping up to the plate. Epstein regime gotta fall. You fake Christian elite, sacrificing the ball. Demon, you talk real big for a man with tiny hands. Tiny hands, tiny things, tiny everything. We saw everything, and word got out. The smallness kinda expands. No wonder all those rage tweets, all those desperate rants. Overcompensating, bully, always causing a scene. You said you love losers. Well, look at the team. Your government is run by. Your government is run by pedophiles. They ordered you to die for Israel. They ordered you to die for Israel. They lied to you all.
Oh, I love it. All right. Enough fun and games for today. That's enough fun and games for one day. What do you think? I don't know. I'm just saying, as for per the chorus goes, I got to say that's probably one of the more catchy of the choruses, or catchy of the tunes. Let's just say. But again, a lot of it is based in truth, based in reporting, based in fact, right? The fact that we have kind of, been kind of relegated to the United States of Israel really has some meaning, really has some truth behind it. Obviously, from what we've seen, recently, kind of giving a lot of backing and corroboration to that as well. But what do you say we dive on to this next clip, which is, this is the iHip ladies. This is Jen and Pumps talking shit about Kash Patel. And again, anytime anybody's talking shit about Kash Patel, I'm down for it. Right, I'm going to be there to listen. I want to hear what you guys got to say. I want to hear the shit talking. Right, we got things to learn. We can continue, ramping our shit talking up on these different levels. So this is again Jen and Pumps talking shit about Kash Patel. I believe the new reporting about him traveling with a bunch of booze, along those lines as well. It says here, Kash Patel panics after insane booze stash exposed. So again, what do you say we dive into a minute of this? And then we got two or three different Ukraine videos to dive into as well, to give us some updates on what's taking place there, and some counteractions attempted by the Russians as far as the Zaporizhzhia area is concerned. So stick with us, hit the like button. Again, this is Jen and Pumps talking shit on Kash Patel. So what do you say we dive into a little bit of the crazy talk about Kash Patel? What do you say? Follow me, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It would be great. Appreciate you. All right, here we go.
And we're learning more about Kash Patel and how badly he is abusing his role as FBI director. MS Now reports the following, pop this up. Exclusive with Carol Linning, sources tell us the FBI is investigating a journalist in an effort to find her sources for a critical article about Kash Patel.
I mean, if that isn't fucking giving us the most evidence to call these people snowflakes, like that's what they've done every single time. Basically, anybody that's like been not a whistleblower, but has leaked any information or has talked to a journalist and this reporting's come out that's been truthful, right? That hasn't been kind of disproven as far as these assholes are concerned. They go after the people that were leaking. They go after the journalists that were reporting on this stuff, as opposed to, again, seeking accountability from themselves. None of that's going on, but they will go after people's First Amendment right and journalists in this country to report on the facts of the people that are now leading and are in charge of this country.
Here's what fascinates me so much about all of this. These people want to be badasses, but they have thin skin. And, we get out every day on these airwaves and I get just a deluge of you're a dumbass, you're a libtard, you're unattractive, I hate your guts, you're a cunt. I think absolutely
now
nothing.
How am I missing the mark? That's what I want to know. You figure like the shit I say is opinionated enough, it's sometimes divisive enough where you'd find like some maggots in here talking shit. Like, I just don't find that happening. Like, where are my death threats? You know what I mean? Where are my fucking maggots that want to come in here and talk shit? I want maggots to come in here and try to talk shit. I mean, am I too aggressive? Like, do they stay away and they try to pick on more, the female podcasters, the female presenters and that type, the ones that they think they can get one over on, but realize really quickly that their intelligence is not on par with anybody on this left side of the aisle. But, I digress. But where are my maggots? Fuck.
Of it. It doesn't impact my life in the least bit because I'm a big girl.
No, Stagmus, I think that's a lot of it too. I will say, to be serious, Stagmus, I do think you're right on that. I think that's a lot of it, whether it's marginalized communities, whether they pick on trans people or gay people or again try to pick on women in general. But in each of those categories, like I said, I'll reiterate that they find out very quickly that their IQ, their abilities, capabilities, as far as debating or recognizing the facts is not on par with any of those people in any of those communities right off the jump. So they find themselves trying to fight these like unfair fights, and they still seem to get their ass kicked every single time. So I think that's a huge part of it, Stagmus. I think that's right on point. No, do we have a troll? I want a troll. I want one, Roxanne. Send him my way. Who is he? Who is he? Fuck, I want one. Where are the maggots for me? Come on, talk shit, people. Come on, who are you guys? Who are the people out there that want to defend Trump now, right? Do I have to start doing it like a phone-in show? Is Tom and Victoria, are they going to be, ultimately right in telling me that I should start a phone-in show and start talking to these fucking maggots, bringing them on the show and just, derailing all of their talking points? Are we going to have to turn like a Friday show into a call-in show, like a second half of the show into a call-in show? Let me know what you guys think about that. Because Tom's been he's been pushing that for a while, saying that he thinks that'd be a good idea. And I'm hesitant, let's just say, because of the idiots that I'm sure will, attempt to get on the line and the shit that you'll have to sift through in order to have a good conversation. But let me know what you guys think. I'm always down to appease the audience. So let me know in the chat.
Up here voluntarily. So it's fascinating to me that somebody who is so thin-skinned and so revenge oriented would find themselves in this type of role. And the reporter,
I don't see any either, Adam. I don't see any either. And I like I said, you guys know, as mods, my rule here is not to just broom everybody right off the bat, right? We don't just broom everybody or anybody that disagrees or has a differing opinion or talk shit even about the host, me here. That's kind of one of the rules that I've set forth for the mods. It's like, I want people to be able to engage even in heated debate, as long as it's not getting violent, as long as there's no threats or doxing or bigotry or homophobia, anything like that going on, then feel free to let these idiots kind of infiltrate the chat. All the numbers help. They're all good, and you guys can rightly call them out and play with them like cats with a toy in the chat, as they build up the numbers. So, that's kind of how we've built this platform. It hasn't really worked as far as enticing the maggots to come in, because again, they probably hear the accent, they probably hear what I'm saying and say, I would rather not fuck with that. Just my guess. Maybe I'm giving myself too much credit.
Fitzpatrick, and her story was about Patel. And it prompted Patel to file a $250 million lawsuit against the Atlantic, and the Atlantic responded, pop this up. Statement from the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. If confirmed to be true, an FBI criminal leak investigation targeting our reporter would represent an outrageous attack on the free press and the First Amendment itself. We will defend the Atlantic and its staff vigorously. We will not be intimidated by illegitimate investigations or other acts of politically motivated retaliation. We will continue to cover the FBI professionally, fairly, and thoroughly. And we will continue to practice journalism.
And again, just for further context, in case anybody's just joining us or not up to speed, this is a statement from, obviously, as you're reading on the screen, the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, in response to the alleged lawsuit that Kash Patel is going to or threatening to put on the people that were leaking this information or reporting on this information. Again, that's what they do as snowflakes. They can't handle the people getting this information. They have to try to silence the people. They have to try to, again, stop on everybody's First Amendment rights and kick out journalism, call them fake news, and go after them in any way they possibly can as a weaponized government that they have right now. But that's what's going on here. Basically, the reporting of Kash Patel being a drunk, like we knew, traveling with a pretty substantial liquor chest and one specific bottle, I think it was. You guys let me know in the chat. I think somebody already said it in the chat, but I can't think of the name. It was one specific bottle that has, I think, an engraving of his name with like FBI director on it as well. But there was also other details in that reporting. But, to just show you that we have snowflakes, idiots, and alcoholics running our government right now, that's what they're more interested in. That's what our government's more interested in is hushing and quieting the journalists that are reporting on this and the people that are getting the information out, rather than holding the people that this reporting is coming out against accountable. And again, people putting their right hand up and saying, yes, I fucked up. This is exactly how I travel. The reporting is correct. And no, I'm not going to take out a $250 million lawsuit on a journalist for reporting something that somebody else gave them as far as information. So, all right, let's dive into the couple of these last clips here. I appreciate you guys once again for joining me. Hit that like button. We're going to be diving into a little bit of the actions, the happenings in Ukraine right now. So this is the first one here we're going to put on is by the military show. This is going to be detailing the unthinkable just happened in Russia. Putin's own inner circle is gunning for him. We talked about, if you'll remember yesterday, excuse me, the CNN report that Vladimir Putin is currently very afraid, very anxious, and very wary of both coup plots, assassination attempts, and obviously the danger he's under, per the Ukrainian military and Ukrainian officials and, kind of different agencies on the Ukrainian side that are typically hunting him down. So we've talked about that. We even talked about how it's now maybe kind of rubbing off on Donald Trump a little bit, maybe why he's putting so much time, energy, and resources into this fucking billion-dollar bunker that he's trying to portray as a ballroom now. Just my speculation, but we'll throw this one on just for a minute or two. And then this next one is also detailing, again, some actions by Russia trying to push towards of Zaporizhzhia. We'll pull up the deep state map, just kind of detailing where that is in Ukraine so everybody can get up to speed, because it's a different aspect, a different area of the front than we've been talking about over the last, probably week or so. And then just to kind of further reiterate the reporting going on from Putin and his fears. Here's one from Frontline. As you can see, we might not have time to dive into this one, but you can see the headline here, the actual title on this. Putin fears his own people as he fails to cover up losses. So again, he's cutting it from all angles right now. You can see why, we talked about yesterday the reporting that anybody within Vladimir Putin's proximity, whether you're a cook, a nurse, one of his security guards, anything like that, you're not allowed to have a smartphone. You're not allowed to, you have to have cameras installed in your own house so you can be surveilled 24 hours a day, even when you're in your own private establishment. There were other stipulations involved as well, but the kind of the levels in which Vladimir Putin is going to, the lengths he's going to right now to try to keep himself safe, like avoiding his dashes, his billion-dollar fucking dashes that he's got all over Russia. He's not staying in his well-known places that, people would have an easy time kind of depicting where they are geographically and, geolocating them, let's just say. So, like I said, here's another bit of reporting by the Frontline talking about that same aspect as we're talking about right here in this one. And this is, again, by the military show, talking about the unthinkable just happened. Putin's own inner circle is gunning for him. And again, reel it in a little bit when we watch the military show, right? Anytime we bring up this channel here, they do some great reporting, but a lot of the times the the headline, the thumbnail is kind of pushing it a little too far. I will admit, right hand up accountability as far as that one's concerned. But, I try to do my best to reel it back in before we even dive into the video. So let's just take a look at this, see what other insights we can get as far as how Vladimir Putin is worried about assassinations, coups, and obviously the Ukrainian military getting to him as well.
When Putin launched the Ukraine invasion, he thought it would be over in weeks, if not days.
And again, this goes to answer the question, what's going to end first, Vladimir Putin's life or Russia's full-scale invasion into Ukraine? And again, might sound like a hyperbolic statement, but the way in which he's carrying himself, the way in which he's kind of portraying the threat against his survival and leadership inside of Russia is making people question how closely, we're looking at the removal, or how soon we're looking at the removal or death of Vladimir Putin by multiple different angles from multiple different people. So let's just take a look at this.
Glory would come to him, the start of a new Russian empire, with Putin at the helm, securing his legacy as he went. None of that happened. Now Putin faces the clear fact that he will be dead before the war he started ends.
And again, they talk about it in certainty, right? They talk about it like it's a 100% guarantee, which is, again, a little bit of the issue I take with some of these videos. But as long as I stop and I reel you guys back and say that it's not obviously guaranteed, it's not 100%, right? Probably looking more likely by the day, considering, the reporting on kind of the actions and the maneuvers he's taken to keep himself safe. But again, let's not go too far. Let's not get ahead of our skis as far as that's concerned. But, kind of one of the ways in which we have to back it down a little bit, as my uncle would say.
Won't be Ukraine that kills him. Everybody from Russia's elite to its military bloggers and right up to the inner circle Putin trusts the most are turning on their leader. The sharks are circling, and there's nothing that Putin can do about it. Even mathematically speaking, Putin's war will rage on for literal decades after he's gone. It's not even a question of being ousted from power. Right now, Russia controls 20% of Ukraine, which means it has a little over 482,000 square kilometers to go. According to the Institute for the Study of War, Russia has managed to capture just 348.3 square kilometers of Ukraine during the first months of 2026, and that includes a net loss of territory it experienced in April. Multiply that by 3 and you get an advance that amounts to just 1,044.9 square kilometers. Divide the amount of Ukraine left to capture by that number and you get 461 years.
Jesus Christ. And again, we've talked about this a long time here. Just how far away Russia is from obtaining their goals, achieving their goals, how far away they were, how far away they are right now compared to where they were in the first days of this full-scale invasion. I mean, you guys will probably remember and recall the armored lines, the armored columns, right? Marching into Kyiv, the babushkas lining up with their Molotov cocktails to stand in the way, the wreckage that was left afterwards because of the successful attacks by the Ukrainian military and the civilian population in the area. I mean, to think now that this is where they are, the Russian military, this deep into this war, this far into this war, this many losses into this war, and the calculations remain that they would need another 461 years to again capture the entirety of the country of Ukraine. To push into any of the substantial areas, any of the goals that they were originally set to obtain. 461 years. Not a good look for the military. Again, that's probably why more and more people are speaking up in Russia, more and more of the hardline leadership behind Vladimir Putin that want to see more action. Like there's two hands to this. Like there's probably people in Russia, a faction of leadership in Russia that wants to see this war ended because of the casualties, because of the harm that it's doing to the economy, because of the harm that it's doing to, the ability of Russia to work with partners on the world stage going forward. And then there's a more hardline regime behind Vladimir Putin that is pissed off that they haven't obtained the victories, they haven't obtained the goals, and they haven't gone out there and gained more territory, killed more Ukrainians, yada, yada, yada. So there's two kind of aspects to do it. I'm sure there's even more behind the scenes, but those are kind of two prominent positions that I'm sure Vladimir Putin is looking over both of his shoulders to try to appease.
Putin could live 4 entire lifetimes on top of what he has now, and he would still be long dead before Ukraine falls at Russia's current rate of advance. But as bad as the maths is for Putin, it isn't the reason
So
why he'll
again,
be
now
dead.
you can see here where some of the hyperbole comes in. Is Vladimir Putin going to be dead before the war ends? Well, apparently, yes. The answer is definitively yes. If in fact it's going to take another 461 years, there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Vladimir Putin will in fact die long before Russia obtains any of their goals or achieves any of their goals in this war.
In the water long before Ukraine falls. The reality Putin faces now is that there is far more danger from within than there is in Ukraine. At least with Ukraine, Putin can send soldiers to die and not have to worry about the knives being sharpened in the shadows at home. Time isn't what Putin has to worry about. It's everything else. Starting with the very organization that Putin has been using to keep himself in control, Russia's Federal Security Service, or FSB. On the surface, it seems like the FSB has been acting in Putin's best interests since he launched his invasion.
Well, WW, that's a good question. I'd like to think I have a good 20 years left at least, but I do understand the sentiment of the question. But, we appreciate you spending any of those long, ridiculous lifespan that you have left with us here at Blunt Politics, my friend. So, WW, I appreciate you. But I'm hoping at least to answer your question, one person at least has 20 years left.
Russia's elite security service, filled with the types of operatives that Putin will be familiar with from his days in the Soviet Union's old KGB. Like Putin, the FSB is concerned more about control, power, and both the management and access to resources that Putin values most. Kindred spirits, in a sense. But that's where Putin's problems begin. If he has found kindred spirits in the FSB, that means he has found others who will do whatever they can to get their hands on power. Putin holds the power. The FSB, which is supposed to help him keep it, is actually slowly wresting power away from him. Again, none of this is evident with just a quick glance at what the FSB has been doing for Putin. When Russia's president ordered internet crackdowns, it was the FSB that executed. Every time that Putin needed a supposedly corrupt official arrested or pushed out of a window, there was the FSB, worming its way into his trust by doing whatever he asked. What Putin never realized, and perhaps still doesn't, is that this was all about creating dependence. Putin needs the FSB to the point where it's no longer the president of Russia who truly controls Russia. It's the FSB. Where is the evidence for this? None of it is ever stated outright. That's just not how the FSB works, but the signs are there. And though subtle, they form a tapestry of treachery that has ensnared Putin.
And again, maybe just pure speculation at this point. But again, you pair that with the actions that we've been talking about, kind of the maneuvers and how Vladimir Putin's handling himself and the security concerns he definitely has, kind of the processes that he's making people that surround him go through, whether it's being checked twice and 3 times, no access to cell phones, you're not allowed to take public transportation if you're working around Vladimir Putin. Again, the installation of video and surveillance cameras inside of your private residence. Another one of these things, him avoiding his dashes, avoiding his well-known residences in Russia is another aspect to tell you that he's not looking to go to the normal places. He's not looking to have people know where he's at a lot of these times. So again, you kind of pair these two things up together and they'll give you kind of a path to, kind of suspecting that a lot of this is taking place behind the scenes, and that his kind of, hold on or grasp and grip on leadership and power there in Russia is slowly, we'll say slowly, kind of loosening, let's just say. So again, that was reporting there by the military show, which has given us some good insights as to the reporting we've been talking about over the last couple of days about Putin's fear of, assassination, coup attempts, and obviously the Ukrainian military knowing where he is and having the ability to get to him. But that leads us to this here, because I want to always stay grounded in reality. We always like to report on the successes and the achievements and the good things, the positive things that are happening for the Ukrainian military, while also it's very important that I think that we stay grounded in reality and take a look at the entirety of the war, the entirety of the front lines, all aspects, both geopolitical, military, and things taking place otherwise, to kind of get a clear picture. And I think this kind of does a good job. This is by RFU News. Strategic geopolitics, and it says Ukrainians push hard, Russians retreat in all 3 directions, but it will go on to detail how they are attempting, the Russians, to make a push towards Zaporizhzhia. And again, as this is playing, I'll pull up the deep state map and I'll kind of give you a depiction, a kind of more accurate representation of where on the map, the battlefield map that we're talking about. So let me just play this for a minute as I pull up that map, and this will kind of detail, like I said, the actions attempted attempted by Russia, what we need to keep our eyes on as far as what they're trying to do to skirt along the coastline there to try to get into Zaporizhzhia. So we'll take a look at this real quick as I pull up the map. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. I really do appreciate all you guys that continue to support this show, not only in our, in our venture to cover everything domestically in the United States, but also our love, passion, and affiliation for all things geopolitical. Obviously, our, affiliation and passion for supporting the great people and military of Ukraine is very high on that list. So I thank you guys for recognizing that and supporting me in my passions and also joining me in my passions as well. So take a look at this real quick. Like I said, I'll pull up the deep state map. And like I said, Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava.
Today, there is important news from the Zaporizhzhia direction. Here, what started as a limited Ukrainian clearing operation has now grown into a full-fledged riverbank counteroffensive, as the stakes in the battle for Zaporizhzhia rise higher than ever before. Amid the Russians approaching the regional capital from the south, Ukraine has sent its best special forces operators to break the Russian assault. Russian forces have been steadily infiltrating deeper along the riverbank axis, trying to exploit terrain and proximity to push closer to the major city of Zaporizhzhia.
So Zaporizhzhia, you can see just at the very top of the screen up there, circled in white. We've talked about Stepnorisk before. We've talked about Primorsk before. So this is an area that we should be kind of familiar with if you've watched the show for long enough. I'm going to throw this one on here, the deep state map, and just kind of get a different look, a different vantage point. I'll zoom out a little bit. We can get an idea of where we're talking about. So obviously, you can see the entirety there of Ukraine. Obviously, you can see the front line established here. We're going to go down here in the south of this area. Here's Zaporizhzhia, as you can see, and this is where the Russians are trying to make their push as depicted in the video that we're watching. Here's Stepnorisk, and you can see how they're trying to skirt along the coastline here to try to make their way into Primorsk as they try to make their way a little bit closer to Zaporizhzhia up here. Again, we zoom out here. Here's Zaporizhzhia. As you can see, they're trying to utilize this coastline to kind of slip their way in between the cracks here. You can see this is Malo Katarinivka up toward Kushinum. And then again, as you get into the Zaporizhzhia region. So just to kind of give you an idea, the last couple weeks we've been looking at here over in Pokrovsk, the area. We've been looking over here in Huliopol as well. Here's Kramatorsk, Sloviansk in the belt that we were talking about, all the way up to areas and like such as Lyman as well, that the Ukrainians have been utilizing to try to again capture that defensive structure, the defensive line, and the the defenses that they've built around those to kind of stop the Russian military. If in fact, hopefully they don't get to that point, but if in fact they do get to that point, they can be stopped along that belt line so they don't get to this like vastly open area in behind, again, Kramatorsk, Konstantinivka, Sloviansk, Donetsk. So once you get past this belt, as we've talked about here, I'll just do a little quick representation for anybody that might be new to the show, just joining us. I'll get out of the way so you guys can see this a little bit more clearly as well. So this belt of towns and cities here, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, down to Konstantinivka here is going to be utilized and has been utilized by the Ukrainian military. Defensive lines has been set up. So basically anything after that in this direction is more or less wide open. It's just kind of farmland, open fields. The topography changes a little bit, but not very substantially, especially as it pertains to getting all the way to basically the Dnipro. Right, so you get all the way into this direction, all pretty much open area, and then you get to the Dnipro here. Right, in this area here, and then again you can kind of start making your way up north if you wanted to make your way to Kyiv, Sumy, different other regions and that. So obviously something that the Ukrainian military wants to avoid at all costs. This area here, right, this kind of substantial area behind the Kramatorsk-Sloviansk line that is kind of made, for armored vehicles, for tanks and stuff to make long pushes. Again, without the defensive structures in place, without the military being in place and having set up kind of lines of defenses there, it would be a substantially easier maneuver for the Russian military to make their way in this direction if, in fact, they do get past this belt in this area. So just in case anybody's just joining us, hasn't been kind of privy to our reporting on this before, just to give everybody an update of where we're talking about as well. Let's get back into the video. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you for dealing with my terrible odd skills.
They manage to do this, they will achieve their critical objective of bringing the regional capital within effective artillery range while also placing key Ukrainian supply routes under constant fire control.
Again, another thing that you have to think about as well, and not to dive back into this too quickly, but it's not like they have to infiltrate their way into Zaporizhzhia entirely, right? So what they're talking about is, again, getting Zaporizhzhia into like artillery range. So again, you can see kind of, I'm not saying that this is the exact line of kind of artillery and when Zaporizhzhia would be in range, but just to give you kind of a depiction of what we're talking about. So if they could move into an area close enough to set up their offensive, to set up their, kind of their artillery, their mobile artillery, their long range drones or whatever drones they need to kind of get to this distance, then you can see how it would have a huge impact on Zaporizhzhia, even if the Russians didn't infiltrate and get kind of boots on the ground inside the city. So something that obviously needs to be looked at, and hopefully in this area here, the Ukrainians can be successful in pushing the Russians back in their push here, and obviously along the coastline here. So something to keep an eye on in exactly what this video is kind of depicting as we talk about here. So you can see Zaporizhzhia in the top corner, and you can see kind of this area here is kind of what's looked at to be the line of defenses that need to be held in order to keep Zaporizhzhia, out of direct artillery fire, so that it doesn't get demolished, much like we've seen many other towns and villages and cities by the Russian military before they inevitably try to make a push into it. So let's continue.
This is no empty threat, as the city of Zaporizhzhia already came under Russian fire, as Russian long-range artillery launched devastating strikes that left damaged infrastructure, shattered windows, and multiple civilians injured. However, Ukrainian drone operators quickly detected the Russian Uragan multiple launch rocket systems while on such a fire mission and destroyed the launchers within minutes, denying the Russians the ability to operate safely. As the Ukrainians showcased their ability to take out enemy artillery and prevent shelling of the city, the Russians needed to push Ukrainians further away. Taking a look at the topographic map reveals that Russians aim to secure the key elevated area between Stepnohirsk, Lukyanivsk, and Primorsk. This would allow them to...
Now, again, I'm no topographical expert, but I'm assuming the more red areas are going to be the higher ground, is the high ground. I'm only assuming because, you would have to assume that the area closest to the, to the waterway would be the low ground, which seems to be depicted in either a blue or greenish type of hue. And I would assume, again, if there's any experts in reading these type of maps, is it the red that is going to be the high ground? I'm just assuming. If I'm wrong, if I'm right, let me know.
To replicate their earlier advances from Kamiansk further south, consolidate positions, and push...
Because again, if we can depict what the high ground is, that's going to be kind of where we're going to be looking at the Russians to make a push. Again, if they're thinking, logically, if they're thinking logistically and militarily, then, they'd probably want to make a push to get the high grounds, as we kind of know would be the main strategy, the likely strategy of anybody with kind of like a head on their shoulders. But again, we're talking about the Russian military, so maybe not their stated goals.
9 kilometers closer to Zaporizhzhia, ensuring safe shelling of the civilian population center by increasing the distance from Ukrainian drone operators.
Thank you, brother.
To achieve this, Russian forces launched coordinated infiltration attempts along 3 main axes. The first followed the riverbank toward Primorsky, using small dispersed groups to slip through the urban riverbank. The second pushed along the central M18 road toward Zaporizhzhia, leveraging Stepnohirsk as a staging point. The third targeted Lukyanivsk, with infiltration routes passing through the local solar farm and the surrounding terrain.
So I'm assuming this is where the title of this video comes from, Russians retreat in all 3 directions. Again, this is just me speculating my assumption, because you can see obviously 3 clear, distinct directions of attack here by the Russians, and I'm hopeful that what we're about to hear is that the Ukrainian military has been successful in kind of pushing these 3 main thrusts backwards. So let's see what we get into.
Knowing the risk of allowing a breakthrough through any of these vectors, Ukrainian forces responded decisively, and along the Primorsk axis, their drone operators played a central role. They detected small Russian groups attempting to infiltrate in teams of 2 to 4 soldiers and targeted them before they could consolidate.
So again, just to
Geolocated
give you an idea of like the size of the forces, we've talked about for a while now the change in strategy by the Russian military as kind of like sending in smaller squads, like 1 and 2 man, 1 to 5 man units to see who can make it through the lines, to see if they can figure out kind of like a point of impact in which they can penetrate the defenses. So you're talking about 1 and 2 man kind of teams that the Ukrainians were going against, but this seems like they're at least attacking that main thrust there that's going along the waterway, trying to make its way up to Zaporizhzhia. So let's see if they again attack or counterattack on any of these other fronts as well.
footage shows one infiltration operation in which a group of 7 Russian soldiers gathered and hid for over a week in a destroyed building complex, hoping to establish a foothold.
A week in a burnt out fucking building is not gonna be, it can't be fun. It can't be fun. So again, kind of detailing the severity of the missions and how this isn't like easy going for these, like to finally make it through defenses, or to try to make it through the defenses, only to find yourself kind of waiting it out in a building with no fucking food, ammunition, water, anything like that for 7 days, and then to be found by the Ukrainians and most likely droned out of existence is not kind of the life that these Russians thought they were going to be leading, let's just say.
Ukrainian special forces moved in, engaging the position after
Good.
the Russians refused to surrender.
Okay, so that
5
seems like it
enemies
takes care
were
of that thrust. So that's one of the 3.
eliminated and 2 captured after the fighting started, with the Ukrainians securing the area and preventing its future use as an infiltration point. On the central road used as a middle vector, the fighting was more intense due to the proximity to Stepnohirsk. Russian forces benefited from the buildings in the nearby settlement and attempted to advance using FPV drones to suppress Ukrainian counterattacks, but Ukrainian reconnaissance quickly identified their infantry positions regardless. Coordinated counterattacks followed as Ukrainian infantry moved through trench networks under constant drone threat.
So you can see how they're methodically going after each one of these thrusts. You can see that they took the one up there by Primorsk. Obviously now in Stepnohirsk, a little bit more difficult, as they said, because the Russians were utilizing the buildings and the built-up area there in the town. So obviously a little bit more difficult to pinpoint where they were. But obviously, as reported here on this video, the Ukrainians were successful in not only counterattacking, but also pinpointing the locations of where the drones were being sent up and making sure that thrust didn't have the efficacy that the Russians wanted. So I'm assuming the next one to come is going to be this 3rd thrust, which again will have stopped this movement in its tracks for now, right? Obviously something that we need to keep our eye on. We'll kind of see, the lines being drawn here in Stepnohirsk and kind of see how those change. Obviously trying to mark mentally where the lines of the battlefield are drawn now, kind of, we'll say, in line with Stepnohirsk here, as far as the Russians have gone, as far as they're giving them here on the map. So if that starts pushing more towards Zaporizhzhia, then we know we have more problems. And again, if that starts going back towards the other directions, back towards Plavny, and the Ukrainians are able to push them back, then obviously that's going to be a successful mission as well. But let's see what happens here on the 3rd prong.
Engaging in close quarters combat while systematically clearing Russian positions.
Let me get out of the way.
Geolocated video evidence shows Ukrainian troops advancing trench by trench, neutralizing enemy fighters and shooting down Russian drones, ultimately dismantling the Russian push along this axis. Towards Lukyanivska, the battle unfolded around the solar farm and nearby forest strips as Ukrainian special forces conducted aggressive reconnaissance and strike missions, moving under the cover of armored vehicles before dismounting and advancing through wooded terrain. Despite repeated exposure to Russian FPV drone activity, they pressed forward, locating enemy foxholes and engaging in close combat. Grenades and coordinated fire cleared entrenched positions, with follow-up footage confirming Ukrainian troops had fully cleared Lukyanivsky, along with showcasing a captured Russian VDV officer organizing the defense, proving that the settlement had been fully returned to Ukrainian control.
And again, that kind of takes care of that 3rd axis of attack there, that 3rd prong that we've been looking at. So again, showing you the efficacy, showing you the ability of the Ukrainians to this day, this deep into this war, after this many years, after this many people having to fight this long on the front, still having this ability to react to these actions, to react to the attacks, to pinpoint, to infiltrate, and to remove these Russians from the battlefield. in pretty quick succession here. So again, pinpoint where they are, locate them, take them out. Seems like a pretty effective routine that the Ukrainians have set up here. And again, something to keep our eye on. This isn't over by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure the Russians are going to continue trying to push in this area. They're going to continue trying to probe for different areas of weakness as far as the Ukrainian defensive lines are concerned. So something that we're going to definitely keep our eye on. But I do think, yes, I did save enough time where we could dive into a minute of this as well, because we've been talking a lot about Putin's fears, the pressure that's being put upon him on his own countrymen, by his own countrymen, I should say, on top of the pressure that he's now facing from the war that is going disastrously wrong for him. So this was Frontline, and this is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the same guy that was laughing at the United States. No, it's not. It's not. So this is a different guy. My apologies. My apologies. I thought it was this bloke, but I was wrong. I was wrong. All right, so let's dive into this. Again, Frontlines. This is Putin fears his own people as he fails to cover up losses. Let's see. This is released about an hour ago. The war in Ukraine and global security, again, put out by Frontline, credit where credit is due. When you say we just give ourselves a couple minutes and dive into this, see if there's any other details, reporting, insight we can look into to suggest why Vladimir Putin, again, is so fearful of his life and what the Russian citizens may be speaking about behind closed doors. Let's check it out. Appreciate you guys. Again, Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. Thank you guys so much for your patience, your aggression, your passion for politics, and sticking with independent creators like myself. There's a Venmo up in the corner if you want to kick in a buck or two to the show. I don't drink coffee, but you can buy me a Gatorade. You can sign up at the Patreon, patreon.com/Boston Brian. At least go check it out. There's 3 great tiers. If any one of them fits your financial capabilities, it comes along with some great perks. We've recently redone the Patreon. You get some new discounts now to the merch shop. You get access, obviously, to the Patreon Zooms that we have every single Monday night, which is a good way to get to know the chat. You get to put faces behind the screen names. You get to know the people that you're actually engaging with in the chat. So I like that that ability to kind of get better acquainted with you guys. It's just we shoot the shit for a couple hours. We don't have to talk politics. We talk about the weather, dogs, cats, sports, whatever the hell you guys want to talk about other than politics. But again, if you want to talk politics, we can. But just a better way to get more acquainted with not only myself but people in the chat. You can also sign up for a YouTube membership just underneath me for less than a gallon of gas. So yeah, all those great ways to help the channel. I appreciate you guys. Like I said, Slava Ukraini. This is the Frontline. Putin fears his own people as he fails to cover up the losses. Let's check it out.
For hundreds of years has feared is the Russian people.
Oh, let me put it back all the way to the beginning. My apologies. There we go.
The one thing that Putin fears is the Russian people. The one thing every Russian Tsar for hundreds of years has feared is the Russian people, because the Russian people look for a strong leader who will deliver them victory. This war has cost probably approaching 1.5 million casualties, either dead or severely injured. That cannot be covered up. He hasn't yet drafted troops from St. Petersburg or Moscow. That I think he knows would be the end of him. But there's reports coming out that he is becoming increasingly paranoid. He is increasing his security. He is appearing less and less. This war.
And again, these are all things that have been widely reported now, right? So the fact that he's doing kind of these recorded speeches, we will see him kind of put out these pressers or these statements every so often, but they're pre-recorded. He's either doing it in a specific location and not sticking around too long. We've obviously talked about the other bits of the reporting where he's not showing up to his dashes, his $1 billion homes all over the place. The rigmarole that he's making his security and cooks and everybody else that surrounds him kind of go through. This is all being picked up now. This is all being kind of corroborated as well behind the scenes by different people that, Russian mill bloggers and other people as well. So let's see if we get any more insight as to what is actually taking place.
Going very, very badly for Russia.
Hello and welcome to Frontline with me, Philip Ingram. Now today, it's day 1,534. It gets depressing the more and more this goes up, because Vladimir Putin expected it to be a maximum of a 10-day special military operation, but it's a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, as we know.
72 hours, guys. 72 hours. Probably a fact we haven't brought up in a long time on this show. This was supposed to be a 72-hour operation by the Russian military, okay? That's what all of the experts were saying. That's what Putin's fucking military people were saying. They were going to be able to conclude this. They were going to be able to enact it and conclude it in 72 hours or thereabouts, right? Give or take, let's just say. Sound like the confidence that the United States military had going into Iran, right? Sounds similar to the way that Donald Trump is wielding and utilizing the United States military in hopes that he has this overwhelming success in a very short period of time so that he could gloat, right? Sound very, very familiar, very similar to what we're now facing here in the United States. But 72 hours, think about that. What day did he just say it was? What day? We'll go back 1 sec, because he says it's day what?
10 days gets depressing. The more day, it's day 1,534.
Day 1,534 of a 72-hour operation. Let that fucking sink in.
It gets depressing the more and more this goes up, because Vladimir Putin expected it to be a maximum of a 10-day special military operation, but it's a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, as we know. And to try and unpack what's going on, because Ukraine's out of the headlines a little bit too much at the moment, we've got an old friend of the show, Cormac Smith. Cormac, an Irishman, but a former British diplomat, and he was a diplomat to Ukraine, worked with the Ukrainian government, specializing.
And he's 100% right with what he's saying about Ukraine falling out of the headlines. I think Zelensky's done a really good job at kind of interjecting himself into this situation to make sure that Ukraine not only utilizes and showcases its abilities, both politically and militarily, to help while the Gulf allies, the Gulf regions, and also the United States in defending against Iranian, Shahed drones, etc. But also just keeping Ukraine in the headlines. Right? The fact that not only can they showcase the fact that they have this military capability, but people are talking about Zelensky as they're talking about the Middle East. So it's not just the Middle East getting talked about without the people of Ukraine, without Zelensky, kind of making sure that people still recognize that they have a fight going on too, and that they have learned a shitload that a lot of militaries around the world would be very fucking smart to recognize and to learn from again, their time fighting the Russian horde going on there. But, I think he's done a pretty good job, like I said, at kind of sticking himself into the what's going on in the Middle East in a beneficial way, but also making sure that his name is also being talked about as the Middle East and the war with Iran is kind of going out on the headlines. But that's why I want to speak to people like Preston Stewart, who's going to be on the show on the 13th. That's why I'd love to speak to like Anna from Ukraine, or Kate from Kharkiv, or Artur Rehi, to make sure that we can continuously keep Ukraine on the headlines, in the forefront, on the hearts and minds of the people. And again, I'm not overestimating or overstating the ability I will have singularly to keep it on the headlines, but anything that I could do, any way that I could help, I'm going to utilize my platform to do so. So that's why, we're trying to get as many subscribers here at Blunt Politics as possible, so people can kind of recognize the channel, recognize some benefit in coming on the show. So again, we always love to say, so we can have a little bit more weight behind our punches that we're throwing. So again, it only seems to come with a large subscriber base. As much as I appreciate all you fabulous individuals that have gotten me to this point, I'd love for you guys to continue sharing the show, continue telling people about the show, so that we continuously grow this platform. So that's kind of the ultimate goal. 20K before midterms. Whether or not we make it or not is kind of irrelevant, but that's kind of, we're shooting towards the moon. If you don't aim big, what's the sense of aiming in the first place? So appreciate you guys. I love you down there in the chat. Thank you to the mods as well. Another minute of this.
And he's a regular contributor and a member of the On the Brink team. Cormac, welcome back to Frontline.
Philip, good morning. It's lovely to see you as usual.
Yeah, no, we've got
Ireland.
Ukraine is out of the headlines at the moment because we're obviously focused on the Middle East. But it means that Trump has sort of forgotten about what's going on in Ukraine. And we've got Zelensky positioning himself. We've got Putin fairly silent in a lot of what's going on. What's your general reading of everything that's happening at the moment?
Few things. I'm very frustrated because the first time I heard the term Ukraine fatigue in relation to the media was 2016, when I first, in fact, just before I first went out to Ukraine to be embedded in their Ministry of Foreign Affairs to work with their foreign minister. And, it's ever such. It seems to only take any other major world event to take the attention off Ukraine.
And this is something that we brought up, long before the war in Iran even kicked off. Friend of the show, Philip Ittner, who's been in Ukraine for quite some time now, has talked about how the mainstream media writ large had basically abandoned Ukraine after, again, the original opening salvos, again, when it kind of got stale a little bit, when there was kind of this stalemate on the battlefront, on the front lines, that people started to look in other positions. They started to fly out of Ukraine. They were kind of reporting on it remotely type of thing. It definitely didn't have the eyes and the ears that it did when this first kicked off. So that's something that we've been recognizing for a long time, which is, again, another reason why I want to utilize this platform to the best of my ability. And I want to be able to look back in 25, 30 years, being able to look back in this moment and say that we did everything possible to make sure that it stayed, again, in the hearts and the minds of the people, and that we were right on top of everything that was going on, and most importantly, on the right side of history. So appreciate you guys for making that happen.
Really, I would maintain it matters more to us in Europe than anything else that's going on. However, we are where we are. The Ukrainians are doing rather well at the moment. There's a statistic I actually picked up from you on one of your other programs that's worth mentioning, and I just did a quick bit of research. When this further invasion went in, Ukraine were producing at most 20% of their own armaments and ammunition. Last year, that was up to, I think, 46%. And by the beginning of this year, it was up to 83%.
That's wild. That is wild. That's a wild jump in your ability to produce your own weapons. And I'll dive off of this right here. But, not to take up too much of your time, but that's a substantial jump. I believe he said, what was it, some 20-something% when this kicked off, when the full-scale invasion kicked off, that Ukraine was producing its own weapons, up to about 40-something% as of last year. And then at the beginning of this year, all the way up to 80-something% of producing its own weaponry and stuff like that. So again, this is what I saw firsthand when I went to Ukraine. I had the ability and the privilege of and honor of touring some of the most prolific and substantial of the facilities, of the drone shops, and got the opportunity to meet some of the brightest minds and individuals in the game over there. And that's exactly what I came home and reported, is that people better beware of the Ukrainian military and their kind of ability to get ahead of the technology, to build upon the technology, and to kind of take this in stride and kind of be the leading military, the leading edge of this new drone warfare. And that the United States military would be smart to work hand in hand as closely as possible with the Ukrainians to make sure that we're not left behind when it comes to how to utilize drones and this new technology. Again, when and if it becomes, inevitable that we need to have to defend ourselves or territories, whatever it may be, anything like that. But it definitely would be smart of us to work side by side a lot more closely than we are right now, because we're not working together whatsoever. But I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. What do you say we get into some of the thank yous that I have to put out there for the people that were kind enough to send over a Venmo today on the show? Thank you guys, everybody that's been contributing, everybody that takes the time out of their day, a buck or two out of their wallets to say thank you, to buy me a Gatorade or a Powerade. Like I said, I don't drink coffee, but thank you so much today too. What's today, the 7th? So thank you to everybody yesterday, which is Dame. Thank you so much, Yakov. Thank you so much to Victoria and Tom. Thank you so much to Geneva. Thank you to Cynthia. Thank you to Jin. Thank you so much to Allison, Peter, Debbie. Thank you so much to Moms. Thank you to Geneva again, and Jenny Faye and Corey again over the last few days. You guys have been friggin-tastic. You guys go a long, long way in helping this show grow and making sure that we can at least keep the lights on and some food in our bellies, right? So thank you guys for supporting, and we'll go over here to the fabulous people on the YouTube side of things that always make sure we keep it going. 12 days till Helsinki. Thank you, guys. Thank you, MT. 11 months contributions there. Very much appreciate you. Good luck with everything. Very much appreciate everything that you do, not only for this chat, but also for different communities around the world. Always good to see you, my friend. Wish you well. Hopefully one of these days we can get together for a nice cold brewski. That would be fantastic. So thank you, MT. Thank you so much to Patrick as well. Enjoy a day free of financial backing. Well, thank you, Patrick. Very much appreciated. Like I said, no financial backers, no sponsors, no ads in this show. Just fantabulous people like Patrick who are kind enough to contribute to the show. Thank you so much to Crazy Insane Alien for being here for 7 months. Let's fucking go, Boston Brian. No, let's fucking go, Crazy Insane Alien. Again, I like, I'm not very good at taking the compliments and kind words from you guys. I like to throw it right back at you because you are the people that make this possible. You guys are the people that support all of these different platforms and channels to make them as successful as they are. So it's you guys that deserve the credit. You guys that deserve all of the appreciation. So very much appreciated to you as well, Crazy Insane Alien. Thank you to Bingo for the $5 contribution. Much appreciated, my friend. Right back at you. Thank you to WW. 23 months, brother. Let's fucking go. A lot of more months to go. A lot of more months to go, my friend, as well. So congratulations, Wes. Good to see you as always. Thank you so much for your kindness, your contributions, and your aggression, your passion. Let's go. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, Just Saying, for the 5 gifted as well. 5 people in that chat, 5 fabulous people that took time out of their day to hop in that chat. Now getting gifted memberships because Just Saying is a goddamn saint. And always has been. So thank you, Just Saying. Very much appreciated for everything that you do. Thank you, Allie Orkey. Very much appreciate the 10 pound. Al Reed, FBK, keep it blunt, bro. Slava Rukina. Damn, I'm going to need a translation. I don't know. Al, should I know who Al Reed is? I feel like, is that misspelt? I know a lot of Al Reeds, just not spelt like that. Hold on. I'm going to go now. R-H-E-A-D. Let's just see if I'm missing something, or are you playing a prank on me? Oh, that's your name? Oh, all right. I'm an idiot. What a donkey I am. That just kind of that just clicked for me all of a sudden. So I'm guessing that's your name on Facebook. Keep it blunt, bro. Absolutely. Much appreciated. So sorry about that. Wait, is this you? Are you on Instagram as well? Because I'm looking at a read all about it. Al Reed, 25 posts, 136 followers on Instagram. Is that not you? Am I in the wrong section? Either way, we'll get connected. I'll make sure to get the right account up there. I very much appreciate the $10 contribution, that 10-pound contribution. Let's get it right, Bri. Let's get it right. So thank you, Allie. Thank you so much for everything. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much to Frank. What's going on, Frankie? Appreciate you, Frankie. Let's go, Frankie. What do you say there, Frankie? Thanks for the gift subscription. That's to whoever donated it to you, because you're an unbelievable human being. And Frank, you deserve it. That's all I got to say about that. So thank you for your $5 contribution. Much appreciated for your kindness. Thank you so much to Deb. $2. Shout out to Deb. Thank you so much. Appreciate being in the community here while I learn. Yes, like I said, thank you so much to everybody that's kind of built up that community. You guys have made that really special place. Hopefully, again, like we said, we can get some more maggots and idiots in there that we could play with like a cat with a toy, right? Let them build up the numbers. Let them build up the algorithm as well. So thank you guys that have been here for quite some time. I really do appreciate you. That goes for JD as well. Very much appreciate you for the $5. Thank you so much to Jordan. Shout out to you, Saints. You guys have always been here contributing, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much to Marsha. Very much appreciate you. Boston Bryan community is the best. Thanks to all the mods. Love you all. Right back at you, Marsha. Congratulations on being here for 1 year. And then big shout out to MT again for his kind contributions, whether it be in the memberships or the donation section as well. So very much appreciate you, MT. I know you don't typically like the recognition, but every now and again you deserve it. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I will see you tomorrow for the Friday show. Thank you guys for sticking with me. Thank you guys for your passion, your aggression, your support for not only this independent channel, but all the other independent or so-called independent channels. I'm finding more and more that the channels that you guys all watch, or that we all watch, are more kind of heavily populated with commercials, ads, and bullshit now than they are with actual information. So that's another reason why we try to do things the so-called right way here, so we don't have anybody taking time up out of the show to sell you their products. We don't have any, sponsors telling us what we can talk about, what we can't talk about. So I just think it's the right way to do things. It keeps us independent. It keeps us with the ability to speak our minds, to wear our hearts on our sleeves as we typically do. And I want to make sure we keep it going that way. Like I said, it's not the most profitable venture. It's not the most profitable business plan or way to do things whatsoever. But the object here is to get the news out, to get the opinions out, to get the facts out, and to call out the bullshit. That's what's really important. That's why I gave up my career as a plumber to do this full time, to become a political commentator. And thank you guys for, again, all of the support that you've shown me in that venture. And hopefully we can kind of hit the explosive growth button at some point in time. So thank you guys. Love to all the mods. Thank you to Adam. Thank you to Rox. Thank you to Tiff. Thank you to Tanya. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Ali Osher. I'm missing a ton of people, and I'm sorry. Thank you to Yakov. Thank you to Jen. Who else? If I'm missing anybody, I apologize, because I've been blessed with so many great mods. But you guys are, again, a huge reason as to why this show continues to grow and why we can keep rolling. So thank you guys. And obviously, shout out and much love and respect to the best chat on fucking earth right here at Blunt Politics. I will see you guys tomorrow for the Friday show. Hopefully, everybody's going to make it through another week. Going to be a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, I have no doubt. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Hit the notification notification bell. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but every now and again it works. Let you know when I go live. You can also check out bostonbrian.com for all of the show updates, all of the show information when we go live, the Zoom schedules, what am I talking about? The merch shop, the Blunt Politics merch shop. You can access that through bostonbrian.com. So bostonbrian.com for all things Blunt Politics, for all things Boston Brian. Head over there. You can also check out all of my social media platforms, whether that is Substack, whether that is Threads, whether that's Blue Sky, whether that's TikTok, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. Make sure you're following me all over the joint. And yeah, I think that's it. Good show today. Very much appreciated for all the kind contributions. Much love from me to the chat, to everybody else that you guys have associated with you. And I will see you tomorrow. Much love. Thank you, guys. That's true. That's true, Stagmus. Maybe I will. I'll have to do maybe some fake cauliflower ear. Maybe I'll just bash my ears with a hammer. Right? Maybe that'll get them out of the woodwork. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mad Mac. Heroim Slav, my friend. Hello, Heroim Slav. Thank you, Alyosha. Much appreciated for all that you do, my friend. Thank you over there on Twitch. Much love to all my Twitchians.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
You're drunk. You're drunk.
No, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off!
Like we always do about this time.
They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated? Water coming here is dead.
Obama! Obama! Obama!
Yesterday's a hard word for me. When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular. Inviting Americans from all across the country to come.
Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real?
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Cacophony, a crescendo, a finale, a coup de grace.
Yes, of course, hence the name. Movement, it moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. Revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
I'm just an average guy who read public documents where the elite said they were going to enslave us and destroy America. And I'm not going to be like yuppie scum and deny the threat to my country. I'm going to fight back.
How do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president? Seriously, how do you lie to the FBI and
endorsed JP, right? JD Mandel, and he's doing great. What uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including...
Tell the director to call the White House. Do your fucking job!
Venezuela. Did you just see Maduro? Venezuela.
Oh, go fuck yourself.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
To my hands, if they're small, something else must be small.
He's calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me, he's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2".
For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
Fucking Nazis.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis. I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.